What's up, folks? Welcome back to another week of the Tactical Crutch podcast. It's TCP episode 197, where we are reaching the end of Overwatch 1 esports very, very soon. We've actually just finished up Contenders China finals, so congratulations to Team Chaser yet again for defending their title from earlier this year. They have gone back to back now, so two-time champions and contenders for the entire year in China. They, I guess, got an upset win versus Billy, who are like the hardcore favorite. Sorry, by the way, if I just spoiled Contenders China results. I'm sure you were all dying to get at the VOD, you know, and you just happened to press on to this episode before you get the VOD. Like, oh, I might just take a look at what TCB's up to before I go to the Contenders China VOD, and now I've ruined it for you. I apologize about that. We are, depending on when you're looking at this VOD, by the way, or if it's the premiere that you're watching, the Contenders Australia finals will be happening on, I guess, the 21st. So literally tonight for me. But I don't know. The final could have already happened by the time you watch this, but that will then be the actual final time we watch Overwatch 1 esports through official Blizzard stuff this year. I mean, I guess there's still like the Mayhem stuff coming up, so that exists. Mayhem Classic, Mayhem 4 Classic is still on the way. But as far as like the whole Overwatch League contenders, kind of official Blizzard stuff is going, we're basically there. We're pretty much completely done now with Overwatch 1 esports, which means eventually we're getting closer and closer to having Yiska talk about Overwatch 2.
True. He's gonna have to. He's just gonna have to. Somebody's gonna have to force feed him those VODs of Doha and super play in the game, and look at the Bastion rework and wear a little hat. Should we get leave a comment down below if we should get Yiska a little rework, give him a little hat, give him a little facelift. Who knows?
Think he needs a fresh coat of paint. Like, tie him down to a chair, get one of those things that like peel his eyes open. He's just like
Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah, he's got to like just absorb this Overwatch 2 content. We'll make him we'll put on repeat for 10 hours, and he just has to watch it sitting still for 10 hours, and then we'll finally get his opinion on it.
I could totally play this game if it was just stick figures. Like if someone told me that the hang up is really just like the graphics and whatnot, and like putting hats on characters so they look cute, I'd be very upset. This entire game is just geometry, right? Like a beam from the middle of your screen is reaching out to another geometric object, and you gotta click the thing at the time when those, like.
What has this got to do with stick figures? I'm sorry, you lost me straight away.
Now we're playing red light, green light. We have to wait for the thing to hit the beam, and like then you press the okay.
Yeah. I'm still stuck at the stick figures part, so I don't really my brain didn't advance from that first statement,
right.
So I'm not too sure what we're talking about.
I'm just saying, like, if you care about like Bastion's little hat and whatnot, fuck off.
Oh. The hat looks so cool.
There's plenty of our community members that give a shit about our, Bastion's little hat. I'll have you know, they quite enjoy.
I only give a shit.
He lost the bird for that, right? Did you notice that?
No, the bird's still there.
Oh, he did. The bird's there.
Yeah, was it there?
Animate's still here. We just don't know if he's dead in the lore because of the Halloween skin. Okay.
The bird just lives underneath the cap now. What do you think it's there?
What if
it's got a little home?
What if it's dead under the cap, like Schrodinger's bird?
Schrodinger's bird. Is Overwatch 2 coming? Is it not coming? We don't know.
Does it even exist? And the answer is under the cap.
Where does that hat go when he changes modes? I actually didn't pay attention.
Does
the hat
that is the question we should be asking.
Because when he goes to the Sentry and the tank forms, and now the artillery form, which Yiska doesn't know about yet, don't spoil it for him. Where does the hat go? It's an interesting question.
Are we gaslighting Yiska to believe there's an artillery form for Bastion? Is that the bit now? Should we just gaslight him? Because I don't think he knows.
I'm not sure. Is there?
Maybe.
Oh, well.
Have to wait to find out. I don't know.
How would that work? How do you do artillery in Overwatch? Does he have a little arch, like a little beam? Is it like these shit games where you like have to shoot closer to the basically worms?
So an ally walks up to Bastion, puts a mortar round in his cannon, and then fires it off, and does this thing where they cover the ears.
Yeah.
And then it goes. it does like whistling thing, and then it explodes, and then it hits somebody.
Perfectly fits well. Like,
and then if it doesn't hit, and they have to adjust the accuracy, you can see the guy the crank like click, 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 and it's just cranking the thing until the mortar's moving. Yeah.
Is Bastion even still a character, or is this just a thing on the map?
No, you saw he has a little hat now. Yeah, he's still a character.
Okay.
It's a mortar with a hat.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like you're 50% shitting me, 50% it's true. I don't believe they would make an ability that like requires like another. Like I think the most interaction from an ultimate that you currently have in Overwatch is like window or something, you know, where you like.
The most interaction we've ever had with an ultimate is when Symmetra's TP used to be an ultimate.
True. True. Yeah, that's very true. That's just about the only one, right? Are we getting like a well? What's it called? Like the healing well in WoW, where you had to click on it in order to get healed?
I hope not, because if Blizzard gamers are anything like they are in WoW, nobody clicks that shit. Shout out to the real ones.
Dude, please never introduce a thing that's like Lantern for Thresh. I am going to lose my shit if that happens.
For anyone that doesn't know, Yiska was talking about League of Legends here.
Yeah.
The game
relevant
that Overwatch
esports
is based on. Yeah. Because everyone's like, oh yeah, it's just a MOBA FPS. I love MOBAs. MOBAs are the best. Speaking of Overwatch 2, apparently we have a bit of a would it be an announcement? It's not really. No, it's not an announcement. It's a Dexerto article that says Overwatch 2 rating suggests sequel won't have loot boxes. Sure. And beyond that, I might as well tack onto the other thing. The other thing is like the competitive balance, tax, and maximum salary cap eliminated as well for next year. That's more Overwatch League. So the first part was Overwatch 2, and this is the second completely unrelated part. I just decided to tag it on there for no reason. I just duct tape those two parts together for my own enjoyment. Is Overwatch League. So I think the first part, like, yeah, okay, no loot boxes, pretty expected. I thought this. I think the game is probably moving in a free to play direction with more of a battle pass like system anyway, or some other sort of cosmetic.
I think system. That makes perfect sense, right? I think the way Dexerto reasoned this was like the rating that Germany gave Overwatch 2 and our gambling laws allowing that, and me being a German and a former law student should be qualified to comment on this, but it's about Overwatch 2, so I won't tell you shit. Like, no, but the thing is, like, this seems relatively plausible, even though a lot of people were skeptical about what this actually says. I think just like it's another contributing arguments that one may have in order to conclude that we are going to have a different monetization system coming with Overwatch 2. I mean, there needs to be a different one, dude. Like,
God, all the people in the YouTube comments, they're not really. I'm not talking about our YouTube video comments. I'm talking about like the Play Overwatch and the Overwatch League, or the VOD for the Overwatch 2 content there that you haven't seen yet. Those comments are saying like, oh man, what's the same game? So I'm not gonna buy Overwatch 2. I'm just gonna keep playing Overwatch 1. I'm like, oh, these people don't know. These people don't have the critical information. Oh, yikes.
Yeah, and it's
wait till they find out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That's basically like I start believing when we get a solid system. You know what? Like, that's one of the most disingenuous, like, pieces of shit.
Oh boy.
Headers of gaming articles around the industry. You know, like, whenever like loot boxes are mentioned as like this nefarious thing in gaming, and it's always the Overwatch loot box because it looks the nicest, but it's by far the least exploitive in gaming, right? And it's like FIFA is basically like dragging like thousands of dollars out of like credit cards of by children extracting their parents basically a week. Like being pretty much like getting more money out of the loot boxes now than from the sale of the actual FIFA title for the last 3 years. Like, that shit is legitimately
who demonizes Overwatch loot boxes?
That's the thing, but every single loot box article has Overwatch loot boxes as headers, dude. Yes, it's fucking disgusting.
There's no way.
Yeah.
It can't be. Overwatch loot boxes, it's not even paid to win. There are literal paid to win
Yeah,
loot boxes
yeah.
out there.
They're
Where,
so
the
fair.
content of your
They're
game,
too fair.
the real content. I'm not talking about skins. I'm talking about the real content of your game is locked behind these loot boxes.
Yeah.
That's the real shit.
Yeah,
Who's
dude,
demonizing Overwatch loot boxes? What?
there's legitimately a German streamer that bought, I believe it's boxes for 65,000 euros now. And he still isn't remotely close to having a perfect team in that FIFA mode.
Damn, still waiting for his Ronaldo.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Jesus. Joe, you went and you took a bit of a visit to, just as a bit of a change. Did you have anything to add on this, by the way? I was about to change stuff, and then I realized
Quite literally not. So the floor is yours.
Oh, wait, it's actually not mine, because I was gonna ask you about your trip to the sandy deserts of a distant planet of Arrakis, where you're collecting spikes or something of the sort now. Like
you're just
I don't know
pulling.
Like,
I don't. I think we're
spikes. What is you cook with this? What do you do with this
possibly
stuff? I don't know.
Some sort of seasoning blend.
You better tell me what the spice is, because I'll tell you what, the movie doesn't. So you go ahead.
Fuck you. The movie was amazing, AVRL. I'm wanting anything else.
So the Overwatch 2's news cycle is so dry and dusty, just like the movie Dune, which I haven't seen yet, but I of course have opinions on, because that's just who I am. We're talking about FIFA loot boxes and random German streamers. That's kind of where we're at with Overwatch news. But what isn't as dusty and crusty as Arrakis? This guy. And that's thanks to Manscaped. That's why support for Tactical Crouch is brought to you by Manscaped.com, who is the men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. More clutch than a Twilight flank, Manscaped's Crop Reviver keeps my family jewels intact while the competition leaves you spiced out of your mind. Keep yourself looking proper and keep your partner mighty happy with the Lawnmower 4.0. Yes, you heard that correct, folks. Much like Overwatch 2, the Lawnmower 4.0 is the next generation razor that you have just been waiting for. Just hopefully not too long, like 5 or so years, with no content. You get it. Fear is the mind killer, so don't be terrified. You need to tackle that below-the-waist grooming. You get 20% off with free shipping with promo code Tactical Crouch. That's all caps, Tactical Crouch, no space, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use promo code Tactical Crouch. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.
I'm applaud you for dropping proper and happy into that. Although I will say those are probably like the easiest couple of names to put in there.
Yes.
I'd have been impressed. You could have put in a kilo in there as well.
Tried.
I'd be impressed. I'd be impressed if you dropped the Jjonak in there somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, I think that's like, that's nightmare difficulty of trying to like just name drop a player that can fit into a normal English sentence. You guys know that I made a poem recently.
Did you?
Of because what was happening in my my personal Discord, a bunch of people were doing puns for Overwatch players being put in there, like I don't know, use proper as a you just pretty much what you were doing. You just kind of name dropping players into regular sentences.
Yeah.
And they were all doing this. Some of them were pretty clever. Like, oh yeah, this is kind of funny. Like, and they're just kind of slipping a couple players' names into sentences. I'm like, I'm gonna level this up to 11. I'm just gonna do an entire full flowing sentence, except every single word is a player's name. The entire sentence is just all player names, and that's it. I didn't even have to go very far. I only looked at Contender's career, and that was enough for me, because those guys are really good at just using some basic nouns that make sense, and a couple of connecting letters, connecting words in there just make enough sense. So the Contender's career poem goes like, "Hey, I'm Stalker. It's all proper revenge. Just attack someone, develop another assassin, fix the arrow to you, stellar aim. Simple physics, perfect checkmate." So
that's hilarious.
Really is. It's a full sentence only using players' names. It doesn't get better than that. So, and with that, I'm gonna happily shave my Arrakis tonight.
There you go.
Did you guys try it yet?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's nice.
Trying on my face in a second.
You know that Joe had like a couple of people point out like, or people have approached me about Joe's facial hair to give him a nudge in the past.
I look at it longingly every night in a way where I'm like, do I want to commit to actually making a move on the stuff, you know? Because that's a commitment. That's a commitment where you have to really like once you actually commit to that, it's like, well, you know, if I'm getting a haircut, I can't just take a scissors and just get a little bit of a lock of hair out. You're going. You have to now. You got to like actually have a full haircut. You wouldn't shave part of your head and just leave a bit of a patch. You gotta commit to the whole. You're full clean now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's a commitment. I like what I'm seeing. It's something I admire. I put it on a pedestal. I'm like, damn, dude, one day I will have the bravery to just like let it shine. I don't know. Free Arrakis is what I'll be doing. One day I'll have the bravery to do that.
You know, I was skeptical about the little light on the lawnmower at first. I was like, what is that for? Do they think like I'm exploring a cave down there or like, but it is actually pretty functional. Like I realized there's actually a lot of utility. Yeah.
Give you a machete, a little jungle tour guide, one of those like archaeological dig hats. Yeah. I don't know. You're all wearing like cargo shorts. I don't know. I'm making.
I mean, make sure that your maker looks smooth and it's like right.
Yeah. So yeah, good stuff. A little bit of just a tiny little bit of an appetizer before we get into more roster moves because I mean it's not like there's any real solid Overwatch 2 stuff beyond what was already been, and what has already been is it's been fairly limited. Not that we're like I don't know if anyone's expecting like gigantic updates yet. I'm sure we'll get them soon. And beyond that, again, Yiska doesn't know about it at all. So it'd be a Joe and I on a 2-man special talking about Overwatch 2, and that's it. And Yiska won't be there because he doesn't know anything about Overwatch 2.
It'll just be a big like bit on like what we can try to get Yiska to believe.
So now we don't have to do much trying to get Yiska to believe so because this has been actual roster moves. So getting into the episode proper now, welcome to episode 197. This episode of Tactical Crouch brought to you by lovely patrons Battle Crab, Refined Bean, Bronze by Boohow, Chare, Chris R34444, Ordino, Hunted Tane, Porkchop Sammy, Chash67, Lolshin, Rexane, Volamel and Sugar High, Volamel Smooth Nuts, and Your Misery. See, somebody knows, Joe. Somebody's
been keeping up. I don't know where the camera is, but
exactly.
Let them know. Manscaped back on.
Done. Getting that code in there. All right, so first port to call is actually not even going to be a player. We, based on what I remember, haven't really talked heavily about Mayhem in the past. I think they've been one of the teams that we've mostly skipped over because not a lot of stuff has been happening in that department, but they've made some moves recently. And I'm trying to remember as well, have they also had plays? I think OG's announced retirement.
Yeah.
OG
and
BQB
BQB's announced retirement. OG has not only announced retirement, but has some wishes to potentially go into coaching in the future. So there's that. Beyond that, though, they've obviously still got Yaki that they, I guess, will decide what they want to do with in terms of trying to trade him off. Although I would make the argument now, and maybe somebody else has an opinion, that if they want to build a mixed roster, because they kind of there's been a rumor that after failing to acquire the back line of AT, American Tornado, and OG and Ultraviolet, who are rumored to be going to Atlanta, that Mayhem was shifting towards a mixed roster. And I'm saying, well, I'm like, if you're going to do a mixed roster, maybe you should just keep Yaki, and that's a star you can build around. But one piece that they have absolutely announced properly now is that Gunba is joining as their new head coach going to the next season. Gunba, who is freshly coming out from Immortals Valorant. Previous to that, he was LA Valiant, Boston Uprising, and also LA Valiant, both the green and the blue version, for the Overwatch League. So quite a bit of Overwatch League in there. A lot of Valorant in the recent memory, in the recent history, and now back to Overwatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I know that this has definitely been a hot topic within the community, but I don't think I just don't understand where the notion that this is out of like nowhere, right? It's not like Gunba's never been in the game before. I get maybe being a little, you know, disenfranchised, maybe upset, but this isn't like a new person. This isn't just some random person from another
Stop
game.
tweeting. You know, say it for what it is. Who are you talking about here? Well, stop. You know,
who was it? I mean, I'm
it's
not
Natter.
even
specific a little bit.
Is it Natter? Okay, like that whole tweet chain. I think reading through the lines, like I empathize with like not getting and maybe an opportunity or a chance. I feel for that, but this notion that like somehow people should be upset because Gunba, somebody who has been in the league, somebody who has been around Overwatch for a long time, somehow can't come back and still maintain or maybe even improve what he's done. Yeah, it just doesn't. Not my favorite take.
No, like, okay. So I understand that it's really hard to get opportunities in Overwatch League unless you're already familiar with the guys. That said, there's a lot of open tryouts now. So, like, there seems to be a lot of, like, ground to actually fairly compete against others in your respective field. At the same time, there was one word in there that didn't make sense to me. What the fuck is deserve when it comes to a coaching position? Deserve doesn't make any sense. When it comes to sports specifically, it makes no sense. You're not giving participation trophies when you're signing someone to a contract. Like you're not grinding into a position that is like given out for people like an award for like lifetime achievement. You are recruiting for performance. And there's barely like one season's data point in which Gunba's teams weren't amazing, I would say. Like for the longest time, like he was part of the Boston roster in season 1. Ridiculous overperformance from that roster at the time, if people call back. Was part of season 2, yeah, that didn't work out too great. Can't put it all on one guy, but of course it's a data point, which we need to consider. Season 3, he was with Valiant, a team that once again overperformed. Probably not to the point of Boston in season 1, but then again, the field also got better. Then he goes to Valorant. They also, for the longest time, have been polishers of diamonds in the rough. If you are a team that isn't willing to pay top dollar and wants to be mostly Western, I don't know of a coach that has a better track record there in terms of delivering results or expected results. At the end of the day, if I'm a general manager, I am tasked to sign the best possible candidate that can do the job the best so I can keep my job. It's not about participation trophy for the longest time. Now, it is also the case that it wasn't just like nobody was in competition with Gunba. It isn't just like Albert threw like a dart at a chalkboard or like a board with like pictures on him and just randomly picked out a coach. There was, of course, talks between other coaches there. And like, I completely understand that from a strategical point of view, and also I think Albert gave quite a good reasoning because, once again, in the ridiculous position that we are playing a game next year and signing coaches and players for a game that they've never touched, right? That we now have to find new people for. So, in essence, like I personally, you may very well have disagreements on the particular position that Gunba inherits, and I don't think Gunba is flawless in what he provides, and I have some questions for him as a head coach because that he hasn't proven yet. But in terms of like his ability to create winners, especially on low resources, I don't think like there are many people out there that are more qualified. And I don't hate this move at all.
I think he's the most qualified coach in the world for creating value out of having high efficiency and creating value in probably undervalued players or overlooked players. Let's actually bring up the tweet from Nada first, so we can get some context on what kind of sparked this entire debate. So this probably wasn't like, I mean, this was probably like something we were going to talk about in terms of Gunba anyway, but then there ended up being this wider topic on a debate on how orgs should be approaching the hiring process of coaches and head coaches specifically. So for people that don't know, Nata is a coach in Overwatch around. I don't know if he is still actively coaching tier 2 teams. He was coaching around tier 2. He was previously on Drifters, Third Impact, and Global Esports. And he does educational content for Overwatch. And someone that I've like casually known for some time, I guess. What I'll just read it out. Normally I don't tweet stuff like this, but I think this has to be addressed if what Halo tweeted is true, which is now true, by the way. It's been fully announced. Gunba head coach for Florida. Gunba head coach for Florida. It's disrespectful to coaches with Overwatch League experience and top tier 2 who have been grinding their ass off, plus have had high placing. Gunba hasn't been in Overwatch for 1 year. And then he goes on to list a bunch of other coaches that he believes could have been taken the position, including by Zenith, who was actually on the Shock recently, Faustus, who's been on Glad's, Sword, who was on Third Impact, and then various other coaches. I don't know if I'm going to name every single one of them, but the tweets are there. He wants to specifically state as well. It's that he's not saying that maybe. I'll read the last week. I also want to add that I don't mean anything bad towards Gunba, who got the job. More looking at the management. So I think he's got criticism for the Mayhem and potentially other teams in terms of how they went about the process of how they hired coaches. Now that we got the context out of the way, I'll say one thing in terms of where I'm standing is that I've also talked to Nada behind the scenes. So my reply is in here. I said something along the lines of like, I don't think this was a particularly good take, and that Gunba is super qualified, and that kind of reducing the negatives of Gunba, like, oh, he hasn't been here for a year, is really surface level and doesn't actually highlight all of his good qualities. But as the conversation continues, he has more of a problem with the management side of their decision making rather than the Gunba pickup itself. I guess I talked to Nada at length behind the scenes about it, and got his takes on it. I don't think he's coming from anywhere potentially malicious, or he's coming from like a it should have been me kind of thing.
Sure.
He's more just like speaking on behalf of all tier 2 or like all currently FA coaches that have been assistant coaches in some ways. I will always back the side of teams doing what they believe is best for them, and a certain hiring tactic that is valid and done worldwide for all sorts of jobs and positions is headhunting, where you are specifically out to get particular people, and that's it. You're not here to do open trials. You don't care about that. You're not here to do an open casting call or an open hiring process where you got to get 1,000 resumes and go through all of them. No, you have a short list of like 5 or less people that you know would be ideal for this job, and you are targeting this specifically. You are headhunting, and you don't care about listing this out into the public. That's what you don't, because you know what you want. If you don't know what you want, maybe you go out into the whole world, you scattergun approach it, and just see who hits, what hits rather. But if you do know what you're looking for, and it looks like Mayhem probably didn't know what they're looking for, because I was aware of 2 other high-profile coaches who I'm not going to name, who they were also targeting, who ended up not being the choices for one reason or another. Some of them they could have declined. Either party could have declined. Who knows? And ended up being Gunba being the final option. So there were a number of different people, as I said, high profile, that could have been in that position. And it seems to me that Mayhem were specifically headhunting a short list of people, and they weren't going to go for like an open trial kind of thing, which also creates a lot of, I don't know, unnecessary cost and time constraints where it's like now you got to go through this entire like open process. What do your trials look like? How do you judging these things? How long are you going to do this for? By the way, while you're trialing for a coach, players are being signed left, right, and center that you're probably wanting to target. You want to settle on a strategy for developing a team and getting a team signed. You need a coach like now. You can't be waiting weeks to trial a coach while players that you want. You've already lost OG and Ultraviolet supposedly. You can you really afford to be wasting more time trialing coaches while more players are leaving that you actually want? It's like it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
You kind of have to put yourself like we just got done empathizing with the coaches who I would love to see every coach in the league. I'd love to see everybody get opportunities, but let's face reality. There are a limited number of teams that are going westward. There are a limited number of teams in the Overwatch League. And we're going into a new game. So are you, looking from a business perspective for a moment, trying to, look through the lens of a GM? Are you more interested in taking a gamble on a rookie head coach who is their first season in the Overwatch League, or are you going to take somebody who has experience in multiple games, who has a resume of success, bringing them over and using that known quantity to kind of give yourself the best foot forward into a new vestige? I don't know. It seems pretty cut and dry to me, and that's not to the dismay or not throwing any kind of disrespect towards these coaches, because I do believe a lot of them are Overwatch League caliber.
Yep.
But the situation calls for something that is a little bit more known, I think. It doesn't mean that you're certain, Overwatch League franchises may opt the other way, but look, just if we change perspective for a moment, you can kind of see where, maybe Albert's coming from.
Yeah, and it's not even we brought up Albert's tweets already, but Albert essentially hilariously subtweeted that entire thread pretty hard by saying like, okay, happy to announce the coach search is over. Gunba's got a proven eye for talent, great track record, all extremely true things, and it honestly even underplays Gunba's skills. His main fortes, this guy's like S plus and having an eye for talent, and having a great track record at building a team that heavily overperforms expectations. Couldn't think of a better qualified person to rebuild a roster with. And then Albert views his year away coaching Pro Valorant as an asset heading to Overwatch 2. He learns, scout, and coached a brand new 5v5 game with new maps, new abilities, and new heroes. Overwatch 2 will be a brand new game as well, and his Overwatch knowledge combined with his Valorant experience will be invaluable. But again, I think no one disagrees with the Gunba signing at the end of the day. Not even Nata really disagrees with the signing itself. He disagrees with the process in which he believes it should have been an open trial process where everyone should have had a shot. I think he believes it's like kind of unfair that other potentially very good coaches in the tier 2 scene, and even free agent coaches from Overwatch League like Zenith, who was even on the shock, didn't get a fair shot because Mayhem decided essentially screw that, we're just going to specifically target the people we want and not go over to them. But if you're someone who's looking to fill the role, ultimately you are looking to fill the role with who you believe the best option to be. That's it. How you get there, I think is a little bit redundant. You just need to try and get there by the path of least resistance in some ways. And I think Mayhem achieved exactly what they were looking to do. They completed their goal. That's it. That's all there needs to be.
Yeah.
So
I do empathize with everyone that is barred by gatekeepers in order to get at the highest level, though. I know, like, that's a fun idea to think about, but have you ever asked yourself how much deserving, and now truly deserving, as in, like, these players are better than those that actually made it in? How many players stayed outside of the Overwatch League because of insufficient scouting and or evaluation by the gatekeepers? It's an interesting idea to go through and like wonder, and like maybe some of the cases that were quite public were like Dia or stuff like this, right? Like how much better could the Overwatch League have been if a truth machine had done the selection, or if we had open qualifiers to everything and people could have just, through a thorough process, gotten to the upper echelon, right? But yeah, like I fully understand the emotion behind Neta's tweet.
Of course.
I in part understand that the frustration is just it is very different, for instance, than even the chipset discussion we once had with when Jane said it, right? Because like Chipsa had never competed to the degree at the highest level that Gunba has in this case, right? Like like this guy has competed in practically 3/4 of the Overwatch League, right? It's the majority of the Overwatch League he has been involved in. So I think it's a very different case. And I wonder if there are other reasons to dislike that move than what can be said in those tweets. But yeah, like generally speaking, I totally understand the emotion. And I think that part of the argument should also be realized and empathized with by the community.
Mm-hmm. Real fast.
Yeah, go.
One quick thing that you kind of, I think both of you brought up, but I know that Yiska just kind of touched on it. Kind of interested in both your thoughts really fast on like open tryouts as a process. Like, do we think that's like the ultimate like end all be all process to find talent is open tryouts?
But it's slow. It's like, and I think there's a time constraint here. Like, Mayhem are a team that have heavily rumored to be like missing out on deals or like missing out on certain players. They need to be moving quick. Like you know, you want to. How long do you want to do open trials for coaches for? How many more players are going to get signed away while you're doing that? You're not quite sitting on your hands, but damn, you're moving pretty slow. Like things are, you know, whether we think this should be happening or not, but teams are moving pretty quick on talent for Overwatch 2 when no one's been able to trial in Overwatch 2 or anything.
That's
and everyone's taking mad gambles on player, then taking those gambles fast. And it's creating a lot of FOMO where, okay, well, everyone else is taking mad gambles on players pretty quickly, outside of probably like the Valiant and stuff. But everyone else is taking some pretty big risks quite quick. And if you want to secure a quote unquote good roster based on Overwatch 1 talent, you better be moving quick too, because that talent's going to start to do, especially by the way, for a team like Florida that wanted to go full Western at one stage, where like, bro, there's like barely any eligible players. Oh, well, eligible is not the right word. There's barely enough superstar level players from contenders NA or EU or just in the Western side of the competitive esports sphere that you can really get. So if you miss out on AT, yeah, no shit, you're gonna have to go next because that means the majority of like top tier Western talent is suddenly gone. So time is literally of the essence here. And again, if I'm in Albert's shoes, my ultimate goal is simply to find who I believe the best person for the role is. The method and how that happens, I don't give a fuck. I don't think it really matters. Do I feel bad? Do I empathize? Because in speaking to Nata, some of the language used was also that like, okay, well, it kind of makes Path to Pro in tier 2 kind of pointless. He's saying, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, what's the point in grinding tier 2 and Path to Pro if you're not even going to get a fair shot and someone that didn't even do Overwatch for a year is going to come in and just get the job, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that perspective, like, oh, that does sound like shit. I get it. I 100% get it. But I also think like that's just true everywhere. Like I don't know. Like if you were in acting, it's like, bro, why should I star in B movies when these studios keep hiring A-listers? I don't fucking know. Don't be an actor then. Like this is just. I think that's just kind of how it is in a way. There's just no guarantees. Like, and I know better than anyone, most people, because I grinded the shit out of tier 2, and I had very at various points pretty low hopes as well, and there needed to be very specific circumstances for me to even join the league. So like I don't doubt that I probably wouldn't have been there if some things were particularly different. I probably wouldn't have done Overwatch League, been able to do Overwatch League this year, and I would have missed out as well, and I would have felt shit about it. But I think at that stage as well, I don't blame the player. I probably blame the game in some sort of case where like anybody, when you're making hiring decisions, you're trying to take the path of least resistance. I get that. Everybody who's ever been in a hiring position, I've worked a 9 to 5 and at normie job before, where I was in a position where I've hired people. Trust me, I know what it's like to take the path of least resistance. Why would you ever not take the path of least resistance to get to your goal? Why would you ever make your job harder to do? Right, that's the question you got to answer. And no one's going to do the thing that's more difficult if they can do it in an easier way. If I can secure a top tier, if I can secure what in my mind is a top tier coach straight away, without having to go through a long trial process, I'm going to do that. And does it suck for people coming through? It does, but I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do about that. It's not. Is it fair? It's probably not really fair, but
dude,
who gives a fuck?
There's also a non-zero chance that Gunba won't be available by the time you made your solid choice.
Yep.
Like, I think like you almost have to like start from the position that you don't think Gunba would be attractive to any other Overwatch League team in order to arrive at that conclusion. Because I could totally see maybe not as a head coach, that might not happen. But like, if Gunba wants to be in the Overwatch League, he always could have been. Like, his skill set is very unique, generally speaking, because he is a full-blown coach and a strategical coach. He understands Overwatch at a high level, but he's also a stats guy. Like, he crafts his own.
Next to Baroy.
Yes, and we don't talk much about him, but like, he wrote his own image recognition software as well and found relevant metrics and scouted in 2 games now, very efficiently, especially at early stages of those games, some of the best talents. So, I don't know, like, I think that this is once again a belief structure, how different you think Overwatch 2 will be. I think it will be very different in considers like who's going to be good and who's going to be bad. Bro, having someone giving him earlier access to the new game in order for him to get his process going, and then being able to react shortly, like let's say in February, March, when more people hopefully have access to this game, like for him to then deploy his methods and then like maybe on a last moment's notice sign additional players, or like, I mean, unfortunately also let go some of the players that that might not be up to snuff that you thought that would be, and replace them, because that's my understanding of Gunba too. He's willing to make the hard choices, and like I would be surprised if many players for Mayhem would be hired with like large contract assurances that couldn't get them out here in a timely fashion in order to augment what you're doing there. Like, I'm sorry, but this is literally what currently the Overwatch League requires of you. I don't know if teams that have re-signed their full roster will do well. My gut feeling tells me they won't, and that includes Shanghai.
Interesting.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, I mean, overall, I don't think Nada's perspective is coming from a bad place. I think there's frustration behind that for real, and it's justified frustration. And I've been right there. I've been justifiably frustrated in my own regard, grinding through tier 2, because I know exactly what that's like. You're putting a lot of hours for no guarantees, but I think that's a lot of what this industry is. And there's the closing thought is, anybody out there who has this kind of belief, and this in some ways extends to all of all of life, and not just even esports, Overwatch, is if you believe I have put in an X amount of hours, therefore I deserve Y, that's just a fallacy. That's a lie, and you need to get over that right now. That's not just in esports, not just Overwatch, for your entire life. At no point do you ever deserve anything. Putting out X or Y amount of hours does not give you shit. Because I don't know, there could be a more talented person who put in half of your hours and is actually better than you. Maybe you are the best. Maybe you put in 10,000 hours and you are the best, and you got fucked over. If that's the case, you're incredibly unlucky. I feel bad for you. That's awful. But that will never be, I think, the be all and end all, and you can't use that as justification. At the end of the day, there's a lot that goes on in terms of hiring decisions, and even in real life, in any job, I don't think you could ever, I don't think that's ever going to be like the expectation that simply because I've had more experience than this guy, I should be hired. Like, that doesn't always make the best person. I don't know. I just don't see that as the hill to die on as far as hiring goes, personally.
True.
Now, just to get ahead of this, because like I feel like we're having strong opinions on this, but it also has a certain explosion probability, right? So just to double hedge us, I think there's absolutely like theoretical scenarios where this is going to not work out for the Mayhem as it should. First off, because Gunba has never been a head coach and always had like strong head coach personalities in front of him.
I would argue that he was head coaching the Valorant team, at least at minimum. Head coaching with packing.
Sure. I agree.
Just put that out there.
But like, if he was to be the only coach, which I'm not sure he will be, like all his other co-head coaches or other coaches he has worked with had very strong people skills, and that might be something that the Mayhem have to look at in order for this to work out. So that is pretty much like the potential vector I see where there could be problems arising, because a season is long. You somehow got to have the boys like harmonize in some way.
Yeah.
And that is a very important and undervalued aspect of this game. That when you talk to the players that are witnessing good leadership firsthand, they won't even notice. We've heard this about Packing, we've heard this about Moon, we've heard this about Get Amazed. Like, it's not an obvious thing, as in like blowing a player's mind based on like strategical insight or micro insight or whatever. It is a subtle and skillful way to lead people in a way that they almost think they're doing it by themselves. And that's a skill that basically every championship winning team needs to a degree, unless you're just like hard outskilling your opponents anyway.
Right. Well, spent a decent amount of time on this topic. I think it was a good topic, though. I think it was one that deserved a decent amount of time to it. And like Arnold, CEO of Seoul Dynasty, Genji, once said, you know, sometimes the goal is, I'm paraphrasing again, is just if you can make it through the entire season without your team imploding, you've done a great job.
Yeah.
And that's what you need sometimes from your coaching staff. And I don't know if Albert's going to be able to hire other people to fulfill that, or whether maybe he'll do that himself as the GM. But Gunba has even self-admitted that part of his weakness is him being able to kind of be the good cop in some ways to the team, which Packington was. So they had a great good cop, bad cop kind of vibe going on. They had a great like emotional leader, strategic leader at the same time going on. So their partnership was very strong, in both Valiant and Immortals for Overwatch and Valorant, respectively. So without that half to Gunba's success, we will see. And I'm not at all saying that Gunba is the best possible choice ever and that Mayhem a guaranteed success. Yeah, what Yiska said is true. Maybe they do fail, but that also, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean that if they suddenly fail, we get down the line and someone comes back, it's like, see, they should have gotten a tier 2 coach. Well, like, how the fuck do you know that would have worked out better? Like, no one actually knows. That's not a guarantee either. So that's stupid. Don't say that, please. Yeah, but that's essentially coaching discussion for Mayhem. So there you go. Mayhem fans, you were both extremely happy and displeased about that last hour of topic conversation, because we actually barely talked about the Mayhem. It was just about the whole coaching discussion, really. OG and BQB retired, and they are they still only have one player, and they're going for a mixed roster. Who knows what the direction is now, because the available Western talent is just not great, right, guys? So it's just, they're probably going to have to really strongly look at more Korean talent.
That's what has me more concerned with this team, more so than like Gunba coming in after a year sabbatical in Valorant, is like, it seems like, again, seems from the outside looking in, either Florida's having not an issue, but like they're kind of late to the party, which means that they have to go mixed at like an emergency level, where it's like, well, we can't really field anything else and we don't feel comfortable doing that, so we're just going to kind of like retain Yaki and go from there. Or they continue going Western and Yaki's like late to the free agent pool, or isn't going to get a buyout, and now he just can't play. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little scared to not see this kid in the league next year.
This is a great segue, by the way, to go into the discussion about open trials for Overwatch 2, because Mayhem have actually announced open trials. So I think and this is, by the way, also feeds into my sort of justification in my own head about why they wanted to move quickly with their coaching, the whole coaching thing, is because they need to lock down the most important piece first, which is their head coach, and then they can get into trials. I believe what is it? Open coach trials and also player trials, or am I got that wrong? It's definitely player trials. I saw something got brought up on screen. Are they doing coaching trials as well? Could someone answer that? Or?
Yeah,
Apparently
no,
both.
coaching trials as well. Yeah.
So both. So they're going to do both.
Yep.
So they're looking for a partner for Gunba. Is that correct?
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yep.
For coaching trials. So they're not the only team doing open trials. And by the way, I think they need to lock down this head coach before they can really get into the trials. If you really want to make good, informative decisions. So this is another reason why you want to lock down a coach quickly. Otherwise, you're going to have to do more work before you even get to a player
the
open
AVRL
trials,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
So who is it? It's Mayhem, Shock. Who else are doing open trials? Is it Fusion and Charge as well? I believe.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So we have 4 teams doing
At
open
least,
trials. Yeah. So what do we think about that? Because again, teams are trialing out Overwatch 1 currently.
What are you trialing for? Why? Like, I don't blame the teams either, but it's just like I don't know that this is even like the most informed call. You know, is this really
else
where
can
you want
you
to
do?
be? Yeah,
What else
there's
can
really
you do?
nothing to do, but I don't know. I'd be much more interested in. I mean, maybe they're just trying to budget it. I don't know. That's a tough one to wrap my head
You
around.
know what this is to me? Is that for some of these teams, they have probably headhunted specific players that they already wanted, like for Mayhem.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
I actually don't know. Actually, maybe Mayhem is not the correct move. Shock, who've we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit more in depth about their roster, but we'll probably transition this conversation from open trials to Shock down the line in just a few. But Shock have actually headhunted a few players already, some based on rumors,
Mhm.
some announced, and now they're perhaps looking to fill the gaps. Right, Mayhem are potentially looking to fill their entire roster with open trials, or they already have a couple players locked in that are near signing that Halo hasn't leaked yet, and then we're just trying to round out the rest with open trials. The Mayhem actually doesn't surprise me a lot because Gunba, who's known for the Gunba vision you talked about, you know, the software he's written Yiska about how he can just like process a player's POV into relevant data metrics for him to then like pass over and find things he's looking for. I've actually talked to him a little bit about this, and he's kind of given me a little bit of info on specific stats that he looks for in players and what it reveals, and stuff like that. And he's run through a lot of different players through this thing, and that's how he finds guys like, for anyone that's familiar with Valorant, this is how he finds guys like Asuna and Shot Up, who are 2 individually fantastic players in North American Valorant that other teams overlooked. Right, he constantly finds these players that get overlooked because his Gunba vision model of scouting is so pristinely accurate. When he's basically trialed and errored this thing to the point where like it's very solid. It's proven. It's absolutely proven because he's built multiple rosters off this.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. Nice. All right, Joe.
Hello.
That's all Yiska had to add to that.
I will say I'm gonna jump in front of like a possible YouTube comment or a Redditor take that will just send me into the ether. Just because something happens once, we cannot cherry pick that. I think Yiska had mentioned this. I may have misheard him. He brought up the name of Vala, right? We can talk about moving late to the postseason. Oh, well, Avala did it, and everybody can do it. No. That's because she did something very special with that team, right? That's not the standard. That's just a miracle. She pulled off a miracle for Paris, right? The way that she set up those trials, the way that their coaching staff worked together to kind of do these, pool style tryouts, their result was an overperformance in every sense of the imagination.
And it's still only an average one.
Sure, exactly, right?
Right, like
you
you're
cannot
still
expect that of everybody.
Only 12th in the league overall during a ridiculous overperformance, right? Like that's, I believe, not the expectation that the Mayhem have.
No.
Right? So I assume they will get some yucky bag.
I certainly hope so. I'm terrified for this kid because, again, the clock's ticking. If you're late to this and people have already made decisions, where do you have to go?
Yeah.
And let's face it, we're not in a healthy league to where people are interested in paying a lot of money. Right? Like, I can't imagine that's the case. Again, I don't know. But from every piece of information that is public, I can't imagine that people are super interested in going, hey, here's 200 grand free hockey. I get the whole tax was, lifted, but yeah, it's just, I'm concerned, let's say.
I mean, if Yaki doesn't get sold, he literally just stays on the Mayhem.
Yes.
Right.
That's where it's like, okay.
Unless Mayhem like do some sort of weird thing where they just like cut him, they just terminate. I'm not illegally savvy enough to know all the details behind that.
I think he's already sold.
Ooh,
okay. That's good.
Because I know a team that tried to get him and couldn't anymore.
I know. This is the thing is like when Yiska says something like that, it's like Yiska think or Yiska know. Those two things are kind of in tune a little bit.
Read between the lines, guys. Come on, you can do it.
You think Halo knows some stuff? Oh, yeah, you haven't met Yiska yet, have you?
No, it's not like that. It's not like that. Yeah, I can't say much more, but yeah, I don't think
you said enough.
Please don't. I don't want to get in trouble.
There's two options to this.
Say whatever you want, and I'll just wipe my hands clean of it and be like, it wasn't me.
Just two options. That like at this point, I think like either the Mayhem has decided that they want to keep him, or a buyer has already been found. That's the two possible options at this point.
Okay.
I mean, bro, you've kind of just listed the two only options.
No, like the other thing could be that he's in the ether and will retire because nobody is interested, right? Like,
that's true. But the two most likely things is like he's either going to get sold or he's not going to get sold.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I think I figured out, guys. He's either sold or he's not sold. Oh, boom.
Can't take another retirement.
Yeah, or he could still be, on the market, still weighing his options. I think like he has definitely the choice has been made as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so any final thoughts on open trials? I guess what I was trying to go with this topic is like, is there a better way teams could be going about this? Maybe is it better just headhunt and try and just snag down some superstars, or that's expensive. I think I'm not saying they're trying to go budget, but there's a maybe especially for a team like Mayhem, I'll return to them. You process 100 plays through the Gunba vision,
dude.
Maybe you get a couple in there that you had no idea about. You're like, wow, there was this guy that no one's looking at, that no one even knows. Let's drop this guy. Like, I'm not saying a minimum contract, but like maybe something that's slightly on the cheaper side because he's not going to get an offer from anyone else anyway. And you find like a diamond in the rough, and Mayhem can absolutely do that, especially if they're going NA based or like Western based. There's probably maybe there's like one or two really good players coming through from the second, third, fourth, fifth best team. And I'm not just talking about like guys like Dove. I don't actually know if Dove is even 18, but there might be some guy in there. There might be some guy in there that just like blows Gunba away. And it's like, we got to get this guy. I don't know. But
the thing is,
Mayhem, a lot of value out of open trials. I'm not too sure about the other teams.
Like at this point, like the best things that you could do, rationally speaking, which is highly criminal, but like get a bag of AVRL, get a bag of modafinil from India, like through the dark web, put it in the snack bowl at the Team 4 office, and try to get this game in your hands so you can make sound decisions. Because everything else is so noisy at this point. Like,
that was the most Yiska description for anything I think I've ever heard. That was sayable on a podcast.
Well, there's your weekly Yiskaism, ladies and gents.
Yeah. AVRL and modafinil.
Kind of teased this already, but Shocker, one of the other teams, having open trials, and I think their maybe open trial strategy is to build around their core, which partially has been signed and the other part has been rumored. And this makes sense to me. Like you've probably headhunted who you wanted to, and now it's about just filling off your side pieces, or like, well, who would be good to just kind of like, get some stuff going around the side. So to run down the news, first of all, 9K is 9K back on? Is that announced or is that still a rumor?
I believe that's been announced. Let me double check.
Okay,
As
so
I vamp.
9K is he is announced. I think
Yep.
I was just
Yeah,
Eric's just dropped that it's official. Okay, he's announced. Cool. 9K's come back with 9K. Violet's obviously been retained. The only player that got retained until recently. Super got announced to be re-signed. So he was actually a free agent. His contract was up. He was exploring free agency market. I was aware of teams looking to get Super, but Super has clearly made the choice to go back to the Shock. So maybe there was a chance that Super could have gone elsewhere, but that's exists in an alternate universe that we'll never know about. As Super returns to the Shock as easily the most marketable player in the entire Overwatch League, and he's been with the Shock for his entire career as well. So I think there was like a fun thing where people were saying that Carpe was the only player that's been on the same team the entire time. I guess Super still remains then, right?
Yeah.
Super and Carpe now. And around that returning duo of Super and Violet, rumored is the O2 Blast core of proper Kilo and Finn. And I think that's been one of the spiciest bits of off-season news so far that is unconfirmed, but fun to talk about. I don't know that we will talk about it in the fashion we're like, oh, it's 100% confirmed, but it's fun to speculate because you could assume that Halo's been pretty accurate so far. We've been heavily speculating, like, well, okay, where could, especially, we haven't really talked about Kilo and Finn, but where could Proper go? And we were saying, like, maybe it could be Fusion. Oh, could it even be Seoul? But then, like, you've already got Profit and Fitz there. You know, could be this team, could be that team. Maybe an NYXL super team. Who knows? But it turns out he's going to the damn Shock. Andy Miller decided that after 1 year of not winning the Overwatch League, he's like, fuck that, we winning again. We're going to go for that unofficial three-peat. We're going to go for that three-peat where we forget about this year, just rub it off the list, and just be like, yep, 3 in a row, baby. As he's locked down, or he is rumored to have locked down the most hyped up rookie coming into the league since like Decay, really. So wild stuff. And along with that is Kilo and Finn. So they're now 2 DPS, 1 tank, 2 flex supports. And they actually have a core of 5 players. And even if they play with only these 5 players, it's pretty strong already.
Yeah, not only did they sign the hottest free agent on the market per nearly everybody you talk to, but his partners, right? In Kilo and then Finn coming in, who I believe is support. AVRL can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, flex support.
Like, how is this not just an early bid for top of power rankings? Like, that's nuts.
Finn, by the way, is, in my opinion, the number 1 prospect for flex support out of Contender's career. So you've got the number 1 play, and then beyond that, the number 1 flex support. And Kilo's pretty fucking good as well. So
yeah, this is insane. And this is the start of the off season, right? Like, that's insane. Does this not scream like Shock, like Legacy, where it's like, I can't imagine in my heart of hearts, do I think that the San Francisco Shock offered these 3 players, hypothetically, the most money possible? Probably not, right? I feel like this is a signing, or these are acquisitions based on legacy. Like, we have built successful world championship teams.
Like Shock reputation, you talking?
Yes. Yeah. I think this is mostly reputation, where players want to win and they have a home where they can do so in the San Francisco Shock.
I would say the Shock reputation kind of took a bit of a hit this year. So
Sure.
I don't think it's as valuable as it was. I don't know if it's as valuable as like the whole, Nero turned down X or Y team to go to the Shock because he'd rather be on the Shock, because who wouldn't, right? But now seeing Shock struggles this year, I don't think it's as valuable. What I will speculate is that this might have been one of the only offers for proper Kilo and Finn as a trio. And that might be attractive for those guys to be like, well, we can come as a package. And if I'm proper, I'm like, well, I like Kilo, and I like Finn, and I like Violet, and I like winning, and I like Super. So fuck it, this is probably a pretty good team. It's like, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of other teams only wanted proper and didn't want any of the other O2 Blast guys.
Yeah, because this, from my information, that wasn't the highest offer on the table for proper.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Doesn't shock me.
And generally speaking, like, the Shock also gets away with having still decent salaries, but definitely below market value for those top guys. Like, I think people would be very, very surprised what some of those players over the years were on for the Shock. Players like Arns or stuff like that, especially in his rookie season, right? I think that would be shocking for many.
He was a rookie. You would be. It's shocking only because of how damn well he performed in his rookie season.
Very true. Yeah.
Whereas, like, tell me if I'm wrong. Was Hans a super hyped up player coming in? Was he like a mega hyped up player?
No.
Or was he just like exactly? So I think people are shocked in a hindsight kind of way. People are looking through their hindsight 2020 lenses and be like, oh my god, that's so shocking. When really at the time, it's pretty reasonable. When you say, I don't know, it seemed pretty reasonable at the time. Reasonable enough that Arns took the offer. I'm not telling up. We're obviously not saying what the number is, and people will speculate. It's like, oh my god, he was on bare minimum. He was below. No, I mean, no one's gonna fucking tell you what the number is. It's just under what, like, where you think Arns' skill level. It was definitely below that, but it's below that because no one fucking knew he was gonna be Arns. And speaking of Arns, I think the move for Kilo is very indicative of Shock's kind of divorce from Arns in a way where, for me, as someone that's casted like damn near, no, I literally just, I was going to say damn near, no, I actually just have casted every single game Kilo has played over the last 2 years. If I'm Andy, I'd probably still go for Arns. I'm not saying Kilo isn't good, but I'm saying that Arns played at such a ridiculous level that I don't know if we're ever going to see another hit scan do that again. And sure, you could argue Arns didn't do it this year. I don't think the meta was really correct for him this year. And beyond that, I don't think his team environment was potentially there either. That's maybe me just talking shit. So that part might not be super accurate. Or I don't know what happened within the Shock, internal. But I still look back at his 2020 performance and my jaw just drops. And I look at a player that has done that, and I look at a player like Kilo, who's very good, but fuck me, he didn't do what Arns did. I don't know, man. I like Arns. Personally, for me, I like Arns. But maybe that's just me.
Yep. I think he will find, if he wants to, there's probably a home for him in the Overwatch League somewhere. And I would be surprised to not see him.
Depends on the price, man. Does he go back to Valorant? I don't know.
I don't know. There's definitely some Korean teams that are looking at that APAC last chance qualifier that might, could use him. Let's just say that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, I think it's pretty reasonable that they took this off of the Shock. I think when I saw this leak, this leak / rumor, I was not at all surprised. I'm like, wow, that's actually a pretty cool home. And it came in waves as well. Like I think I was streaming at the time. My chat's like, yo, Kilo's just been signed to Shock. That means proper. That means like, just like, could there be more? And at the time, I was like, well, that's just Kilo. Maybe maybe Kilo's like, wow, proper's gone to this team, and maybe X or Y play with this team. Shock's looking for a new hit scan to replace Arns, and Kilo's that guy. I thought that's where it was going to end. And then like, yo, Finn's come on there as well. I'm like, wait, okay, now this is getting a bit serious. And then finally it was like Proper, or maybe it was Proper first, but when Proper's name dropped, it was like, oh shit, there it is. There it fucking is. Yeah. Congratulations to the San Francisco Shock for winning the 2022 season. As I don't know, I'm in love with this team. This 5-man roster so far is incredible. The only thing I'm not going to be in love with is how insufferable the Shock fans will be.
Did you kind of expect, based on like your preseason kind of assumptions around, or not assumptions, but like factual basis with Proper? Like, did you see him going this early? I feel like this is kind of early for him. Did you kind of think that? Yeah, maybe even deciding on a team, if there was going to be, any kind of like bidding war over him. Like, you kind of expect superstar signings like that maybe a little bit later. Is it early for you?
I don't think it takes that long to complete a superstar signing. Like what? All the offers get put out in there. Every team that wants him puts an offer out in there. He looks at all of them and decides what he wants. I don't think it takes that long. Does it take long? I don't know.
Yeah, and you kind of want to sign quickly, right?
True. You don't want to get left in the dust. That's fair. Fair enough.
No,
So-
but while the budgets are still fresh, you know. No, I think that very often these bangers are done pretty early into the off season, right? The thing is, I think like it's hard for people to have an intuitive idea just how good this kid is. Like, I guess since Harsha like wrote this in Yiska as well. So Proper isn't like just like last season's or the season before is like nuts kid. Apparently, like they were scrimming Vancouver Titans in season 2. Keep in mind, either the best or second best team in the world throughout the entire season. And Proper in scrims was 1v6ing these kids. And that was once again true this preseason where they 1v6'd Houston in scrims, or was it Houston? Yeah, I think I just read this before the podcast, so that's going to be nuts when he comes in. Of course, like there's always the what if scenario. Not only like does he acclimate to the league? Is it not very different than like playing from home? He has to be in another country for that. What about like the new game that we're going to play? Like, is he going to acclimate into that? So there will always be what if scenarios, but the way this kid came up, I would argue, is bigger than Decay was.
100%. I think this is the most hyped up rookie signing in all of Overwatch history.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree.
Bigger than Leave. To be honest, Leave wasn't. Leave in his tier 2 days before pre-Overwatch League was like really good, but he was not like a prodigy. He didn't become that until I think this year in the Overwatch League. Proper, like this shit goes back years, man. This shit goes back when he was like so young. Like he's only 18.
Yeah,
I don't even know if he's 18 yet. He will be by the time Overwatch League starts next year. He'll be sometime at the end of this year, because your most hyped up signings in the past have been like the Huxals, the Sparkles, the Decays, right? Maybe even Jjonak. But that year, everybody was a rookie, so that year doesn't count.
Yeah.
So I legitimately think this is the most hyped up signing, most hyped up player for a rookie of all time in Overwatch history.
Agrees, yeah.
I hold that. But I will add one thing to what you said, Yiska. The one thing that could be a detriment is none of these O2 guys have played on a mixed roster before. And here's the thing, is because they bring Super back, it is officially a mixed roster. And people weren't sure if it was going to be a mixed roster. Because Super could have gone, they could have gone full Korean, who knows?
Yeah.
They're going to go mixed now. And yeah, you got 9K and Krusty to facilitate that. They're both super experienced with mixed rosters. They're going to have to be, because the O2 fellas, they don't know. They've never played outside of Korea. They've never been played in America, living and playing. That can change shit. Playing on a mixed roster, that can change shit. There is a non-zero chance that enough outside factors could ruin a good player. I mean, it's happened before, but time will tell, and we don't even know that it's official just yet. We're having a lot of fun speculating. We'll see when Shock actually decide to make an announcement or not. But no matter what, Proper will be Overwatch League bound somewhere, as I'm sure Yiska is very aware. There's plenty of teams that would have been interested in him. Speaking of another player, to move on to another topic that has been, I would assume in some ways, had some hype around him in terms of where his free agency was going. Twilight is on Toronto, which might be potentially the most surprising, or one of the most surprising signings of the offseason so far. Because a lot of people thinking, could Twilight go to Fusion? Could he go to an APAC team? Twilight on Seoul even? I think Toronto was just out of left field. But he's kind of joining some, he's kind of joining the whole Hisu KDG call there. Who knows what this roster looks like? Most likely full Korean, possibly mixed, but Toronto's been rumored to have the whole mixed roster thing with Logix is a bit of a mess, guy. So who knows? But Toronto, they could catch some good stuff. This is a decent opening signing for them.
I would say this is fantastic for them. I think this, like, if you weren't, which I wasn't, I was definitely not thrilled with the idea of building around Hisu as a formative piece. And I will definitely announce my bias. I think Twilight is an insane flex support.
Yeah,
I've thought that for a very long time.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to see where Toronto goes from this. I think this is a formative piece that gets me excited, wakes me up in the morning, rustles my gym jams. Promo code Tactical Crouch at manscaped.com. Keep those gym jams nice and clean. When Twilight gets signed, like that's some big moves. That's an explosive flex support that, heading into a new game, when you want playmakers, few people can kind of like argue the playmaking prowess that Twilight brings to the table. So
For sure, yeah.
got my eye on Toronto for sure. Not a team I expected to, but yeah, excited.
Yeah, and they I mean, Twilight is the first one. They definitely tried to make big moves, right? Like they were looking at some of the biggest. Like I'm pretty sure they looked at Proper, and that's the sort of the sort of idea you gotta have with where they want to go. If they will succeed in locking up their talent, I mean, Twilight is a great start. I wonder if they will have some trouble boxing this through. That at the same time, like I probably think like the way they're moving, it feels like Toronto might have one of the bigger budgets in the league.
That's a
I don't know that for sure, of course, but like it makes sense, and I assume Twilight got a bag as well. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. It definitely is like a great start to come out with that for your roster reboot. Like Hisu, Twilight are definitely pretty good pieces to build upon, and then you just like you gotta continue. You can't do the thing that you did last year, where you went like runner-up team guy, runner-up team guy, and then scraps for your backline, or that type of stuff. That doesn't work. And then also like just build sensically, probably just like one language, probably best for you guys. Let them do their thing, and then try to do it that way. I don't know, like, but yeah, for now I'm totally satisfied, especially like after like we put some mild criticism into the water for Toronto's like pretty uneventful performances so far in the Overwatch League. I think that is once again like a commitment to a pretty good roster. I'm not sure if it will be the best built roster when it's all said and done. Unfortunately, Shock and Dragons don't look to be like losing any steam. Dallas locked up their boys, so you got to beat that somehow. But I mean, Twilight is one of the better free agents that were available for that particular position anyway.
And it removes the apathy around the team. You kind of hinted at it, but like, name me a Toronto game from last season. Go ahead. They're the most boring, unstylized team.
Only one is the final game they played of the entire season in the play-ins where Hisu popped off. That's it.
Sure. Fair. Right? Like the most recent that comes to mind, like that's kind of where this team sat. Like super dull, really boring, incredibly middling, like the epitome of average. Twilight gives you some sort of explosive power coming into a new game that you're not going to just feel apathetic about, right? He's either going to hit crazy nades from the flank or TP in and try to flank with Moira and feed, right? Like that's the type of player that they've just signed. So like I'm excited to see where they head next.
And I think getting a solid flex support is super important. It's so important. Like, this is my game way. I'm not going to backtrack too hard to the Shock, but just to mention again, first of all, Finn replaces Twilight. So kind of not having Twilight return makes room for Finn, who, if you're looking to get some good rookies, I mean, there's no better rookie flex support than Finn. But Finn Violet together as a core, phenomenal. Shock clearly have a strategy for double flex support. Toronto going for flex support first. Twilight, beautiful. Exactly what they need. So I think a lot of teams are identifying that flex support is going to be an important position to lock down. And Atlanta went for 2 supports there. I mean, they had embarrassment of wealth there. They could have had Iris and Ultraviolet if they wanted to. If they would require them to have a mixed team. But Toronto here getting that, and next is who knows? They haven't announced any open trials. Maybe they're still headhunting. We're maybe speculating that Toronto could be a high budget team going for a decent roster, but there's a non-zero chance that they might miss the boat because maybe they don't have the clout, they don't have the reputation that Shock does. People still want to join the Shock for the whole like Shock magic. Toronto's just kind of middling. You like, I don't think anyone looks at Toronto's like, man, I'm excited, but maybe that changes when you have Hisu and Twilight as a core. Maybe now more players are attracted because of that. It would be sad that if you had Hisu, Twilight, and then the other 3+ pieces were just not great. That would be such a disappointing end for Toronto and a disappointing home for Twilight and Hisu.
Yeah.
When and if they fail to secure other good pieces. I feel like now that you committed to 2 great players, you need to keep going. You need to keep going.
Yeah.
And a player that they would have, I'm sure, loved to get to join this team would have been a full Korean roster that would have popped the hell off is Pelican. No shit.
Yeah.
Toronto, if they were really wanting to try and build a God squad, Hisu, Pelican, Twilight would have been top tier.
Yeah.
Woo! Gets me
That's some
goosebumps.
heat.
Gets me going. I wanted to bring attention to Twilight because he got announced for the Houston Outlaws instead, which is probably mega
Pelican.
surprising. Definitely to me.
Yeah.
Probably for all you guys. Probably for everyone at home. No, I don't think any Houston fan realistically expected it. They maybe had some crazy hopium, the same kind of hopium, like I'm gonna win the lottery. But then they actually did win the lottery. I don't know. Maybe Brad like fudged the numbers for them a little bit to help them, but damn, dude. I had assumed, I think we all assumed Pelican was going to go to a Korean team.
Yeah.
But he's gone to a mixed roster because Danteh got announced as well.
Just
Yeah.
The most out of
That's
left
interesting.
field.
Well, okay. So I think when we talked about it, like we said, okay, there's 2 options. Either this boy wants to go back to Korea, which makes perfect sense given his health.
Makes sense. Yeah.
He wants to team up with like Proper because he's his old teammate,
Rip that dream, by the way.
or there is another like relationship in the league that he feels strongly about and wants to team up on. And actually, that relationship exists with Piggy. So, like from what I know, they are big homies. After scrims, like video chat goes up, they chat to each other. They've just been friends for a hot minute, and
Stohan Decay all over again.
pretty much, yeah.
The homie meta.
The homies.
Eric's already pinned it. The homie
Just
meta.
a homie meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that's such a strong force. Like, I tweeted about it as well. Like you had Duck Duck Goose last year. Like this time around, it's a lot of homie following and just like teams, like players valuing going with their homies to different teams and like just trying to enjoy their time. It's like following the coach. For the,
oh yeah. Oh, okay. The whole moon thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Now we got a kiss a home meta where people just want to play with their friends. I don't mind that. I mean, fuck it. You do what team environment is hugely important. I'm not going to try and pretend I know what's going on within Atlanta. I don't think anything necessarily went wrong. No. I don't think it can be that bad. You came second in the whole league. Yeah. It can't be that bad. You must have had some good success. You must have had pretty good. As far as I know, the Atlanta team is pretty laid back. I mean, those guys are the most like have fun players playing your little have fun Overwatch League tournament. Doesn't even matter. Every team. What did Gator say? He called other teams like fascist teams or some shit. He called them like.
Did he really?
He says something. I'm paraphrasing here. He called them like not like dictator teams. You know what? Like it just pick a synonym for that. Basically, what he was trying to say is like other teams were like super hard, breathing down your neck, and his team just like fuck it, just show up, put your feet up, play some ranked and fuck around. Not to say they didn't take it seriously because they still won and beat every other team, so they still show up and play. But their mentality was to take the pressure off themselves.
Very loose.
And just go and win, and they absolutely dominated that way. And then the roster gets blown up anyway because I guess they wanted to go full Western. I still think maybe they could have kept Master. I don't know why I'm turning a Houston discussion into an Atlanta discussion because it's kind of linked, guys. It's Pelican coming from
it's context.
And then Pelican ends up coming from Atlanta to Houston to the dismay, I'm sure, of all Atlanta fans because now everyone's like, fuck, why couldn't we have just kept Pelican? But I guess there was always still that one thing in there where the rumor still is Pelican wanted to be transferred away from Atlanta. Yeah. And who the fuck knows why?
I think that's what Brad had tweeted about was like when a player approaches you with a heartfelt request, you kind of have to, take that up on. You have to give it to
request? Him. Get me the fuck off Atlanta. Like, what is the request?
I would guess it's like I want to play with Piggy. Yeah, I guess that would be the first thing that comes to mind.
Maybe
Is like I want to
that-
play with my friend.
See that, like, I mean, I shouldn't try and pretend I know how good of friends they are, but that's pretty
There
strong.
could
I
be,
mean, Houston,
yeah, there could be multiple
Cool,
contributing factors,
Sure.
right?
Coolmat must be like the true galaxy brain here. It's like, you know what? Because a lot of people were criticized, like, why, how we kept Piggy over everyone else? How come we didn't keep X or Y was the other player, but we kept fucking Piggy?
It's nuts.
Right? That was a criticism. Now you understand. No, the real 9,000 head play from Coolmat was like, yo, if we keep Piggy, we fucking get Pelican. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
My guy's playing 6-dimension checkers here, you know?
Mhm.
With God, it's just like, dude, he knew. Coolmat knew.
Yeah, no.
Well done. Well done.
I think that works a ton. You know who also is homies? Prophet and Jjonak.
Again, people read
Are you
between the
moving-
lines. That's all I'm saying. You
Are
know,
you
just
moving-
let them know.
Are you moving us forward, Yiska? Are you subtweeting that you want to move?
I'm
the topic
just
forward?
into the kiss the
He's
homie
help-
meta, dude.
Yeah, he's helping the homie meta.
All right. Just one last thing. Junkbuck's coming back.
Oh.
Yes. Just a good move. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Done. It does ruin my 3-way kiss a homie meta between the 9K
coaches,
Junkbuck
yeah.
crusty triumvirate on Shock. But
Yeah.
you know, aside from that,
Yeah.
I do miss that Shock 3-way in the coach line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, for sure.
Also, miss me with like the DPS criticism for Houston. I think Danteh Pelican is a nuts duo for like a Western,
I'm
like a
happy.
mixed roster. That's
I'm happy
nuts.
about
That's
that. How-
really
wait,
good.
I'm happy
Please
about
be
that.
happy. Yeah.
We'll get to happy in a second, guys. Don't worry, we will get to happy. Well, I guess you can't be too upset about Happy going now with Pelican. I'm not saying Pelican matches hit scan with Happy, but
No.
I think having two mega flexible, you've got two like fantastic flex players on the team. If you wanted to run a team where hypothetically you could have just two DPS and no one else, Pelican Danteh is pretty good for that. I think with the two of them can basically cover the entire pool.
This is where Ons
it's
goes.
not idea.
This is where Ons
Oh.
goes.
Uh-oh.
Danteh,
Uh-oh.
Pelican, Ons is a third man coming in to play Widow Ash. Like
Piggy on
Uh-oh.
S tank.
that, I'm not super thrilled with. But
Gangnam
rest
Jin
of
as flex support and Boink as main support.
okay, well, all right. Listen,
trying to- I'm
statistical
not
out.
trying to- I'm not trying to. I don't want. I'm about to give a really cursed comparison. You ready for this? This one's gonna hurt.
Okay.
And I don't want to undersell Piggy's talents too much. I'm sure like he's actually pretty good, but I think everyone's just kind of relegated him into the Pigma corner. And it's like, well, he just plays Sigma, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that maybe that has a kernel of truth. Maybe that's overblown. But is this a case where the whole Piggy Pelican thing is the new gesture and profit?
Could be. Could be.
Maybe.
The carry my homie meta.
That's a story that I hope the Overwatch League tells if that's true. Like if that's true and Pelican like wants to play with Piggy, like I hope that comes out. I hope there's content made around it because that would be like a really cool narrative to see develop. Like the duos of Overwatch, like that kind of facet
Yes.
really was never
Flex
explored.
DPS and off tank, the duos of Overwatch, a well-known duo. Flex
Well,
DPS and off tank.
not historically, no, but there needs to be like these little. There doesn't need to be, but I think it's an avenue that people would be interested in if that's the case. We don't want to project,
Okay.
right, from somebody who does it often.
Speaking of things that unless you had more to back up there, I don't want to cut you off.
No.
Speaking
See,
of
my-
things that people are,
Very quick.
Okay,
Like
you go,
my
Yiska's
my
going.
mind is already like in the creation of like trailers when they or like music videos when they win the Overwatch League and inevitably. And it's like basically like Pelican carrying Piggy, the pig, in his like beak pouch. And then when they're on land, Pelican just sits on Piggy, rides him, and it's just like the new version. Do you know that German fairy tale of the Bremer Stadtmusikanten,
No.
which is basically like it's
Either
pretty
of us look
common.
German.
No, it's
Either
a
of us look
German.
German.
You guys know some German fairy tales. I'm sure you know Snow White.
No, I don't know a single. Is Hansel and Gretel a German fairy tale?
Yes.
Then I do.
D-
Then
wait,
what? I'm
how
wrong. I
how
know
do
that.
you
I
hear
know that.
Hansel and Gretel and don't think that is not the most German name you've ever heard. Like,
that's why I brought it up. That's why I
you,
brought
you,
it up.
you say that, and you automatically have a Brezel and a Weissbier in your hand.
It could be Austrian. I don't fucking know.
I mean, to be fair, that is also possible, yes.
It could be fucking Swiss. I don't know, man.
I mean, at certain points, that was all one thing, okay?
Germanic.
Depending on what year you look in history, that was
probably when it was created.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Did you have a point to this whole thing, or have you?
I just want to see if a pig in a
just
pelican pouch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to get us back on track of like having actually like music videos and content and stuff. You know, I still feel bad about not having like in season 1. I thought about like, you know, Spitfire, flying machine. We put Gesture and Profit on. Their little flight machine is too heavy because Haberpion is like dead weight as fuck. So they throw him out of the flying machine, and then there goes like, who else was Rascal? Throw them out, and like eventually they can meteorically rise and just like win the Overwatch League that way. You know that, and then just imagine like rise playing while that's happening. Sick. See, and that's what the Pelican Piggy thing could be.
It's true.
All right, we'll look forward to where the bromance develops for Pelican and Piggy, who are now going to be we'll see which animal duo is more favored, Gator Hawk or Pelican Piggy, as we expand our list of animal zoo friends and zoo teams that exist.
You know, the funny thing is that I forgot about Huyal on that team, which ironically is probably my most frequented piece of content ever, me singing NSYNC to Huyal stats padding. So, do you know that video, AVRL?
No.
Oh, no. You have a lot to catch up on.
Okay. That and German fairy tales, apparently. Okay, so we got to make up some lost time, and we got to catch up a little bit because we were going to move on to Seoul. Yiska actually pulled the trigger early on Seoul. He jumped the gun again. But we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that properly. We're back on the starting line. All right. The ref's got us going. He's pulled the trigger, and we're all gonna get off on the same pace here. Seoul, a promoter stalker from Gen G, their academy team. Who, by the way, Gen G, this most recent season of Contenders Korea, didn't play at all because they failed to qualify through trials. RIP. Which means we haven't seen Stalker for at least half a year. Beyond that as well, there have been some heavy rumors behind the scenes, and I look at these rumors, and it's got me almost as excited as a proper Kilo Fin rumor. It's another trio of players. It's Jjonak, Smurf, and Vindaim. And Vindaim is another tier 2 player from Contenders Korea who was on O2 Blast as well, but he's technically owned. His contract is owned by Tiger Nation, which is Gen G still. They're affiliated with Gen G, so he's actually still a Gen G player. So really, they're apparently going to be promoting 2-player Stalker and Vindaim from tier 2, and then adding some solid veteran pieces. Like, you could not get more veteran and venerated than this. Jjonak, Smurf, like, my god. Oh.
Yeah, that's some heat. Coming into a game where we kind of were like, yeah, we don't know what to expect. Like, will players stay? Will they go? Like, will we see rookies? Like, the beginnings of the postseason, like, roster moves already are like, damn, what does that team look like? How does that team stack up against Shanghai? How does that team stack up against the, you know, hypothetical speculated shock roster? Like, this is going to be a banger of a season regardless. We've got some talent.
I mean, this is now, we're starting to build that real Seoul Korean super team now, and it's got a mix of rookie and rookie plus veteran talent on there. I guess you have to technically start considering Creative to be a bit more veteran. He's been there for a while now, even though for some reason I still look at Creative. I'm like, man, Creative's going to have a great rookie season next year. Like, he's already been in the league for like a year and a half now. But you got Creative and Vindaim on the back line. You got Smurf on the tank. Oh, sorry, Jjonak's also apparently on that back line. So you have 2 flex supports plus a main support. Great options. I like that. Smurf, I believe, is the only tank currently. And then they got Profits plus Stalker. And I actually think Stalker is someone that's also cast like every single game Stalker's played for the last 2 years. A great rookie talent. Doesn't get me as hyped as Proper or any of, or even players close to Proper, like let's say MN3 and stuff like that. But Stalker has been Gen G's best player for some time now. Maybe the bar set low because Gen G as a team has not performed well in Tier 2 almost ever. Their best result ever was in Gauntlet last year when they came second in Team CC, which was, don't get me wrong, a great result, but they did have 2U carrying them. And before anyone shits on 2U, he was really good on that team. And 2U, I still think had a good run, but Seoul overall as a team did not play super well. And I don't know, 2U on the Diva is fantastic, but I don't know, maybe things fell apart from this year. I still think he was an underrated player.
Can you give us an idea of Vindaim? Just like what kind of a player that is?
So mostly Brig this year, but that was also due to the meta. He traded playtime between Chio, who was the main support coming through from Runaway, who got added on to O2. So Vindaim plus Chio were heavily swapping playtime, which is some ways a little bit rare for main supports. You never really hear about main supports being subbed in and out for each other, right? Like that seems like a not standard thing. Previous to that, O2 had Sanguinar, and Sanguinar and Vindaim were also trading time. So O2 as a team had always been quite liberal in running through the entire substitution bench roster. A lot of teams have a bench where people are permanently benched. O2 is one of the few teams that I don't think have like perma benches, because even the players that I bench get significant playtime. The only players that never see the bench at all are obviously the Proppers on the team. Proper will never be benched on the team. And I believe at various points they only had the one main tank. Well, this season they only had the one main tank, so Junkbuck never got benched. So Vindaim is a player that's had I think he's played well. He was good. At various points he was better than Chio. Sometimes Chio was better than him. I don't think there's anything like, to me, he's not like a Lee Jae-gon. He's not coming in like super hyped on that position, but Lee Jae-gon is like a once in a blue moon kind of player. Maybe Chorong from Talon, who's another player that's been looked at and talked about a lot, could be the next Lee Jae-gon. I've even called him the next Lee Jae-gon, so I'll own that statement personally. As something that I've said. So I don't look at Vindaim in that kind of lens, but I also don't look at Stalker in that kind of lens as well. I think they're both adequate pickups. I think Stalker in particular fills a role that's required, because whoever joins as the third DPS on this team is probably going to get benched behind Prophet and Fitz. Let's be real. Prophet's still Prophet. Fitz is easily the best up and coming player. I say up and coming being like he's underrated as fuck.
Yeah.
He's underrated as fuck.
Yeah.
He is like, to me, the next Lip. And I thought that he could have been the next Lip this year, but then obviously Lip was Lip. Next year he could be the next Lip. He is that good. Everyone, you talk to coaches, they think Moon thinks he's fucking great. Lip thinks Fitz is great. I think Fitz is great. And so everyone, no matter who joins this team as a DPS, you will play behind Prophets. So you're going to have to get a guy like Stalker who's potentially okay with riding the bench for a little bit.
Good third man, I think, for this team. There's a few, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe my memory is fleeting. But were there not some metas where it was like Echo Tracer, where it was a little bit more difficult?
Yep.
Where Prophet obviously wants to go one way, but you also kind of want him to go the other way too, and you just don't have that equal. Yep. Not to say that Fitz can't play the game well, but that's just not his wheelhouse. I think
He's never been known for Tracer. He's never been known for Tracer or Echo, and that's been a bit of a problem. Stalker comes in with the Tracer and the Echo, so you take your pick. Whatever one Proper plays, he'll play the other one. We're looking at this from an Overwatch 1 lens. Overwatch 2, exactly. Who the fuck knows? Overwatch 2, the world where maybe Fitz gets benched is if you go double flex DPS in Overwatch 2. That's the world. Let's say, I don't know, Genji Echo. I don't know. I'm spitballing. In that world, Fitz is benched. So it's not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a good lineup. Soul's another one that's just coming out with heaters.
Yeah.
I think Soul's tired of losing. I think they're tired of like not living up to they said fuck it, we're gonna build a god squad this time.
The thing is, like, Seoul was always like exactly they had a bit of the Toronto problem, where like you had a couple of great pieces and then you had a couple of honestly shitters, dude. Like in context to the rest, like there's some players in there that
Marvel wasn't that bad.
disagree. But like I think they all had applications in some matters. That's probably true for Alamo, Gesture, and Marvel. They just didn't have any stability there in those roles. And like I don't even want to blame you too much, but like or Creative, who was also playing pretty well. And after all, I mean, Seoul was a runner-up, but I don't know. Like this team definitely just have a coherent like and pretty like I understand the idea that you don't want to just build a super team and those don't work out. At the same time, like who has really tried that? Like everyone's saying that like the Justice didn't have a super team. They had a pretty weak backline, right?
Does London count? Season 1?
They won the league.
Agreed, but is that what was expected throughout the season?
I mean, maybe. I mean, they didn't have the best performance. Yes, NYXL was the best.
They won stage 1, and preseason, I would say they were one of the strongest teams preseason. Because they had the Kongdu GC Busan core.
Yeah,
and GC Busan had just won Apex.
Yeah,
right? Without a doubt.
Yeah,
like, you talk about super team. That's probably where I'm headed, and it's like, is that something you're comfortable with banking on? Granted, of course, different people, different strokes.
The thing is, if you look at the top 3, let's say this year, which I would argue is Shanghai, Chengdu, and Dallas, and then you could even include Atlanta into that as well.
Yeah.
Who's a bad player on those 4 teams, or an average player? Just,
I mean, on Chengdu.
People will tell you Jigsaw. People will say Jigsaw on
Dallas. Sure, fair.
And then Chengdu had a lot of fucking average players. Let's not get this. Do you want to get into that?
Late Young wasn't bad, but
when he played, he played pretty well, I think, though. Like,
but
you don't.
I think their Chengdu's verticals, when they were good and they were all hitting their mark in the very specific areas they were supposed to, were all great. You give Jinmu a specific meta where he can play exactly the Fire or the Genji, which you would argue he kind of was able to play that, mostly the Fire.
Yeah.
It's great. But they were so fucking inflexible that they were like the most hard one-trick team in the entire league. Well, I mean, Atlanta were pretty one-tricky as well, and at various stages, so were Dallas. But my God, Chengdu were one-tricky in the stage where it's like, it's not because like they're just choosing not to play other comps, which is what other teams did. They literally fucking can't.
Yeah.
Because their players here won't let them do it.
That's the thing, though. Like, that same thing was true for Seoul to a degree in the season they got second. They just lucked into the Roadhog situation where Gesture could just pop the fuck off for that entire playoffs run. Like, yes, that is then possible. But you don't want to depend on that, right? You don't want to be in the position where you have to hit the lucky meta in order to be consistently good throughout everything.
Exactly.
You want to have the guy that is like a top 5 in the heroes you want him to play consistently, right? And
which means, by the way, Seoul only need one more piece. I think they just need an off tank, and they're done. 3 DPS, 3 supports covering double flex support plus 1 main.
I agree.
They have the double flex DPS plus a hit scan.
Yeah.
They have 1 main tank. They just need a solid off tank, and I think Seoul are locked and loaded. And then I would look at this team and be like, I like it. I like all the pieces. And I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something really controversial right now. I wouldn't even hate it if 2U was that off tank. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be. It won't be. But I think 2U's underrated. And people say like, oh, how can you say it? Like, the tank line was bad this year. I'm like, yeah, why? That could have been a coaching problem. That could have just been a tank synergy. It could have been fucking Gesture and Marvel that ruined the tank duo with what the fuck? Like, what do you want 2U to do there? All I know is I've casted his fucking footage in tier 2. I've looked at his POV. I've talked to other off tanks who looked at his POV and who have told me 2U's Diva is fucking great. I'm not going to talk about his Zai or Sigma or other picks, but I think his Diva was fucking good. And I think 2U was just maybe a victim of being in a bad team environment, just being in a team that just didn't work. A dysfunctional team. A dysfunctional team can make a lot of players look bad. To which people argue, people is like, oh, well, AVRL didn't. Well, Profits and Fitz were sort of okay. You're at a DPS carry role. It's different. It's different. I'm sorry. You're not playing a support tank. You're playing a fucking DPS. So I don't know. I think 2U's hard underrated, but I wouldn't hate it if they just went for like a solid off tank somewhere.
They're going
I
by
don't know who.
Fury.
I wouldn't. I mean, bro, I don't know
Who
that
says no?
Washington. I don't think Washington let him go.
Oh,
But,
I mean, yeah. If I was Washington, I'd hold on for dear life. But
bro,
I would have said Choi if he didn't retire.
oh,
Real talk.
There's this one nagging feeling that I have for like what you need in Overwatch 2.
Mm-hmm.
Who were the best Zarya players in the league in GOATS?
Like no.
What kind of players were those?
Goats?
Hmm?
In Goats?
Yeah.
They were all DPS players.
Yeah, you're talking
Ah.
about
All
DPS
DPS
fixes?
Ah.
Okay.
What if
Hydration.
what if the best transitioning players into the new tank role
or DPS instead?
are actually DPS, and you don't want the main tank or the off tank. You want one of those and then a DPS.
Yeah.
Because
so Stalker is that guy then.
maybe it's Stalker, maybe it's Prophet, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
Talk about his Zarya.
Right. Like
That is
I
cursed.
can't
How would he
shake
do
this
it?
feeling that just for that reason you should always have 3 DPS. I was recently rethinking like my roster building approach, and I feel like you almost surely want to double up on DPS, because if every tank now plays more aggressively, has more charges on their offensive abilities and whatnot, is more aim reliant, with everyone getting like seemingly like a new aim ability, and like already being established that like the heavy damage mechanical tanks are best played by DPS players. Dude, maybe we are killing every tank in the Overwatch League when it's like after season 5, and like it's all DPS players now. Everything is DPS now. Best Briggs, DPS.
Hey, that sounds like a great game to me, and I feel bad for the tanks.
This
but
is the thing.
Hey,
This is the truth that everyone, especially the casual people in Overwatch, they will hate this. But hey, truth hurts. And the truth is the best players in Overwatch are the DPS players.
Thank you.
That's the truth.
Thank you.
I don't even think it's a hot take. I think it's a hot take to people who are like delusional.
Yeah.
People who have their heads stuck in the sand, like, no, it's not true. It's fucking true. The best players in Overwatch are the DPS players because it's the most mechanically high skill ceiling role. And you see the most mechanical players on those roles. Like, it's the most difficult role to play, not just for mechanics and skill ceiling, but fucking hero pool demand. No role demands a wider hero pool and more flexibility than a DPS, which is why when I said Lee was the best player this year, note that I didn't say best DPS player, I said best player. Because if you are the best DPS player, you are automatically by default also just the best player in the league.
Just the most skilled, dude. Like, and then like, I'm not sure how close Flex is. I feel like it's not too far away in terms of like the general skill level of Flex players.
Yep.
Like I feel like, for instance, someone like Alarm, someone like Violet, they can play DPS, right? Like to a pretty high level. But generally speaking, if we're just talking about skill in specifically mechanical skill, but also like, I mean, I always say like mental tick rate or whatever. So the ability to just like take in information and make decisions in quick succession based on that, while not necessarily binary reaction time, but actually the reaction time it takes you to come up with a solution to a novel problem in the moment. DPS are by none the best group of players in Overwatch, and if that game is moving towards that, dude, like I don't know, like I feel like the only reason why top tier DPS players are not in the other roles is probably because it's too boring for them. Like, if you could motivate like Leave to play tank, he would be the best tank in the world.
Yep, without a doubt.
Again, it's one of those hard truths that people don't want to accept.
So you got to swallow that down with a lot of water, my friends. Half of you.
That's a concrete fucking pill to swallow. But I hate to say it, but it's not guaranteed, but maybe some people's brains just don't function away. Like I can't deal with. I personally, for me, I can't handle holding up a fucking shield. I can't. Ryan to me is the most boring shit that exists in Overwatch by none. People's like, oh, Riss is boring. Like, bro, Ryan's fucking boring. I snooze. I sleep, dude. It's boring as fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not about my experiences here. It's where we have to. So Seoul, happy with that. Speaking of happy, Justice have announced. I would say a pretty PogChamp kind of an announcement here. Happy joining from the Houston Outlaws. Jerry has departed the roster, and they're rumored to get Krillin as well. And they got Ty Dollar not that long ago as well on the coaching staff. So potentially, Washington could be like a pretty competitive looking roster. I mean, we don't know what else it's going to look like right now. I believe the team as of this time is Happy, Decay, Assassin, Magna Fury. So they don't have any supports unless Krillin could be coming in for that. They would still need a second support, which would bring their roster then to 7.
Yeah.
I think it's just a strict upgrade.
Yeah.
Great third piece. Yeah, seems fine. I was hoping for more wholesale changes. Not to say that more aren't coming, but kind of bizarre that this is their start. Not that it's a bizarre start, because Happy is a good player. I don't think was super. I think at the beginning of the season, I would have said he was like hyper utilized, but by the end, it seemed like Houston was trying to force a lot of like tracer comps that he just didn't seem very comfortable with. For whatever reason. I give that to the coaches. So
because most hard hit scan players that are committed to playing hit scan are not traditional tracer players anymore in 2021 anyway.
Agreed. 100%. And that's why, obviously Houston is in a pickle there because they didn't have both options. Not great either way. So I do feel for them there. But Happy, there's no love lost for how good he is, right? So I think he's a strict upgrade over Jerry. Fills a similar role and will do it very, very nicely. Like where it's headed, I still like more moves from Justice. If I'm gonna be honest.
Like the team so far. I'm a little bit concerned that Krillin is just another sideways move for Bebe.
Yeah.
But yep, Happy, cool. Tuba didn't really have much of a place on this team. I think that's fair. As I said, I think having a trio of DPS players that covers 2 flex, 1 hit scan is correct. So you have Decay Assassin for the flex, Happy for the hit scan. Beautiful, love that. Mag and Fury, still solid pieces. Fury especially, who I expect to get a lot of playtime as a solo tank. Just because we've kind of established that off tank is probably the more desirable role for that right now. Speculatively, that is. We don't know for sure. I'm just concerned that we're going to get another Bebe closer situation. I'm not saying Bebe and closer were awful, but like they were clearly the bits of the team that were, not the super big names. And to be fair to them as well, to throw them a bone, I don't think their big name players really like had those huge big name plays you expect. Like Fury and Mag especially didn't really stand out in the ways they did on their previous teams. Decay even, there were a couple of Decay moments, but he was nowhere near the 1v11 Decay that he was on Fuel in a way as well. So a lot of their superstar positions weren't even that great. So you can't put too much blame on Bebe and Closer, but they were definitely targeted. And I don't know. Krillin, he's great. Maybe he popped off in scrims. He doesn't stand out to me. He was a good player, but I don't think phenomenal. I think he's a great journeyman player. Cool. Deserves a second shot at the league, but there is a concern that he could just be another Bebe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. And to be fair, like to Decay, he just still at some of the like highest kills per 10, for instance. I think the highest in the league. Very close in front of Leaf, but he also only had to do it on 5 heroes.
Final blows per 10 in the league.
Yeah, maybe through playoffs and everything.
10 per 10.
Yeah. I think Decay was definitely like close, and then nobody else was close, as far as I remember.
Decay would have been in like somewhere just below Leaf, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
And like, I think he still had a solid performance. Once again, he doesn't have to do it on as many heroes as Leaf did, so that needs to be considered in that equation. But yeah, I mean, overall, pretty rough year for the Justice anyway. And yeah, I don't know, like how they're like what. I'm a little scared that they're just doing the same thing that he did last year, but a little bit better, and hope it works.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure it would be. Right. I'm a little concerned about these players that are mostly known for pure hit scan as well for Overwatch 2.
Are you?
Because like, and once again, like this is super speculative, but
sure, yeah.
Does Overwatch 2 like the idea of Overwatch 2 and the pace of the game that you imagine it to eventually have, does that feel conducive to like playing Widow and Ashe?
I think it's more likely than that sounds.
I think hit scanners sounds really strong on Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
You have less shields, less damage mitigation, less ways for your hit scan damage to just be blocked. Right now, you want to play hit scan, you just play, over shield. You're just playing shield watch. You just shoot 2 shields as yawn. Boring. That's been the complaint. They're not only removing double shield because you're gonna have 1 tank, but the tanks that do remain have their shields nerfed. Ryan's got less shield in Overwatch 2 than he does in Overwatch 1.
Oh.
And his shield in Overwatch 1 already got nerfed from where it was. It was at 2,000, then it got nerfed down. What is it, 16? It's 1,200 in Overwatch 2, I believe. So that to me is absolutely like a prime environment for a hit scan to shine. In fact, based on most of the pro feedback, most pros were saying Widowmaker's going to be fucking broken in Overwatch 2. Like hit scan's going to be crazy in Overwatch 2 is some of the early talk that I had heard in the grapevine with pro player feedback.
It could very well be the case. My rationale is, who keeps those head scans usually alive? And that's usually in some way the off tank that's doing that. Who keeps them alive
against
if healing? Against like a tracer sitting on you. And especially like with potential healing debuffs coming in, with like more dive centric compositions possible. Like I wonder like how possible that is. Maybe it will turn into like the snipers / hard hit scans need an early advantage in order to be feasible, because like once you're in, and then it's really hard to come win from behind. But yeah, I'm wondering how, because like this season, that's probably the worst season. Season 4 was the worst season for hard hit scans ever.
Agreed.
I think that's a tank. I think that's coming through in tanks, because you have Ball Diva diving on you. Forget about the Tracer Sombra for a second. The Ball Diva diving at you is the primary problem. Removing the second tank from diving in your face, I think already alleviates a lot of the dive pressure. I know you're talking about like, oh yeah, the Tracer's coming. Dude, if I'm a McCree, I don't give a fuck. I flash that Tracer instantly.
Yeah, McCree is different. Yeah, I agree.
It's the tanks flying in my face that's the problem. And you'll say, okay, well that's maybe that hit scans remove that. But then okay, Ashe, 1 less tank. I think Ashe can deal with flanking DPS is fine. You got the options. Even Soldier, it's not that bad. You start sprinting, pop down your little healing pad. You can sustain against a Tracer coming at you. It's the tanks that are in your face that you can't deal with as a hit scan DPS. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
With 1 less of them, it's a lot better.
Yeah, Eric draws a good point to rightly mention that the developers have teased that, CC is getting a pass over. Maybe certain characters don't have their CC abilities. Maybe
Flash doesn't stun anymore. It still does something.
Correct. Yeah, it's going to do something, whether that deters through damage or through some other means.
You can just roll away. You can still roll and right click and do all those things. Like
100% agreed with you there. My big concern is when it comes to map geometry. Like, if there's really strong positions for them to play, then I feel like they could be almost oppressive. But in general, I think they're going to be good. and a kind of a refreshing take on the game. I think it's going to be good that we see Hitscan actually being pushed.
I wouldn't be too worried about it. I think most players have talked about Hitscan being oppressive more than anyone's talked about, like, oh my god, I don't Hitscan's gonna have a place. Oh, they will. I firmly believe that. And that's maybe reflected in the signings as well, where everyone's picking up maybe one hard Hitscan here or there.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on Justice?
Now, I hope there's more moves.
Is there one obvious elephant in the room that a lot of people are talking about? I'm not sure how justified that is, but should they have made coaching changes?
They've added a coach. They've made at least one coaching change.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question there, Yiska, you're asking is that enough?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't have the insight to answer that question.
Coach of the Year nominee Supreme? Come on, man.
Yeah, that definitely, by the way, was a complete piss take. I wonder how that nomination happened. I think even people inside the Justice thought probably. I'm not putting anyone words in their mouth, but it was a little bit of a strange one for sure. That roster should have been better than it was. Generally speaking, the direct assumption then always is like the coaching staff didn't do as much as they should. Maybe that's erroneous, and if you have good reasons to know that things should be happening differently, and you believe that, then I mean I don't mind just sticking to your guns if you believe in the vision. And I mean at the end of the day, you just got to present us the results, and then we are made the believers. But the pattern that we find here, meaning we have a nice super team that became like barely one that made play-ins, didn't make Hawaii once, despite having a pretty good strength of schedule and getting to avoid first week matches, which were their weakest, twice. I don't know, dude. Like I would have thought there would be more radical changes to this. I felt like they had bigger problems than the magnitude of their changes suggests in terms of the coaching staff.
Nope.
But maybe that's not the case.
It's such a hard team to diagnose.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to just be like, oh yeah, Hokari was the problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. What I do know is that Chua was fantastic on O2 Blast, working with Prop and Pelican back in the day. And before anyone says, oh, maybe he just got carried by Prop and Pelican. Well, no, as soon as he left, O2 Blast shat the bed in the next season straight away. Which, by the way, is also my evidence for like people that keep saying like, oh, how come people don't pick up O2 Boss? I'm like, I don't know if O2 Boss is that proven as a coach. Maybe he's a great emotional coach, but they locked a lot of strategic depth after losing Chihuahua for season 2 last year, where like, I don't know, man, O2 Boss was not able to carry that team on the coaching side to get them further. For a team that just won a championship with fucking Pelican and propping a team to bomb out, I don't know what the excuse there is. Enough about O2 Blast though. That's just my credentials for why I think Chihuahua is good. High dollar. Everyone speaks super highly of. Glad did well on Gladiators this year. I believe it. You know, the number one evidence that you can have for coaches being good, because at the end of the day, it's hard for people to know what the fuck coaches actually do.
Yeah.
Is player testimonial or just testimonial from anybody. And people saying Ty Dollar is good is, hey, that's a tick in my book. So the only question becomes Supreme. But I don't know what is his ultimate role? Is he a moon? Is he a facilitator? Is he the pat go in the back saying, good job, well done? Or is he calling the shots and he's making the comps and he's dictating the strategy and all that kind of stuff? Who knows? What I will say is that, like, you look at Washington, and as far as adding to the point, like, they're obviously a team that should have done better than they were. But what was perplexing about me, and I guess technically speaking, if we got to be fair, they did go to Hawaii for playoffs, is that you looked at what they did in those playoffs, it was very one-dimensional. This was a team that I think specifically you heard from, it might have been Pre that said this, but it was within the Washington staff. It was like, you know, they made the decisions to play what they were going to play based on what was going to give them the highest chance of winning. And that's the kind of line you give and you say when your team is backed enough into a corner where like shit, nothing is working. Oh well, you got to do the thing that's going to give you the highest chance of winning here. Whereas like winning teams, which is like no, we just play the thing we're gonna play we're just gonna play the best comp. We're just gonna, you know, do the thing that wins the championship. They're not trying to get by. Whereas like, oh, we're gonna play the thing that's gonna give us highest chance. That sounds like you're getting by.
Yeah. No, like the best teams have the ability to just make the best comp by playing the best and others not catching up. It's not necessarily the absolute meta solution. They're just too good for others to invest into a counter. So, but what I will say, I think something that would communicate a lot of confidence. Tidal is one. I think that like, and that's one of the coaching categories. Like people that watched Tactical Crouch for a while probably know the name, but I turn my head if the Justice were to sign Moby Dick. Like everyone I talked to about Moby Dick basically said like that's one of, if not the most impressive mind they've worked with strategically in terms of like Moby Dick initially with the Toronto Defiant, then later on with the Philly Fusion, also through last season, and now I believe currently FA. So that's someone like if you need strong strategical back and forth between two coaches, which by the way probably was something that was happening in the shock all the time between like Krusty, 9K, and Junkbuck back in the day. Then you probably want someone like Moby Dick who can also like come up with new strategies and also be a good like person to bounce ideas off for Tidal and constructively criticize those.
Just wild because you feel like Fusion was another one of those teams, right, that should have done better with what they had, with the caliber of players that they had in various positions, quality of coaching, 9K, Moby Dick. Fusion and Washington in many ways were like almost sister teams in the areas that they failed in. Which leads me on to the next topic of discussion here, if we're happy to move on from Justice now, is some of the leftover teams that really haven't made any moves. And before people, obviously there's teams that haven't made any moves like Valiant. We're not expecting them to make any moves for the longest time. It's not really looking at Vancouver either. Like, who knows there? They're probably not going to make any significant moves until much later. The teams that should be making some more significant moves that we haven't seen anything about, or not enough from, strangely, are like Fusion NYXL, where shit is flying off the shelves left, right, and center. Proper being signed, Smurf's gone, Twilight's gone, Fusion NYXL, they're sitting on Fusion have Alarm, MN3. Is MN3 official? I think he is. And then NYXL's on Flora. That's it. And NYXL could not retain Jjonak, and I believe, were they trying to retain Jjonak? Is that the belief? They were definitely attempting to retain Jjonak and couldn't do so. It seems like Fusion and NYXL are currently behind the pace and losing in the off season a little bit.
Yeah, most definitely. When it comes to like the hot button, premier not DPS, but just like rookie players coming in, like I don't know where else you go. Maybe some of the leftovers from Shock might be interesting.
Still good pieces in Contenders Korea, but do you want a full rookie team?
That's
what you want?
Concern.
Do you want Alarm plus 5 rookies? Is that what this is? Like, what is it? Does that give you hope? Is that?
It's not.
And by the way, they're not going to be the best because Proper's gone.
Yeah,
Proper's gone. So you're not even getting like the fucking star rookies now. You're getting the leftover rookies.
The leftover rookies, yeah. Yeah.
This is like Mayhem with the whole Atlanta situation with AT. You're getting the leftover NA players now.
Yeah, I mean, you could still get Yaki, right? Like
that's
you could be getting Ants. You could be getting.
Could grab Glister.
I guess, yeah, Glister makes sense. Who else is still on there? Like Eric has the list up, so our Discord members have kindly ranked their free agents. So the top
Sato,
list,
Kellen are there.
yeah, in terms
You
of
guys
tanks,
think
yeah.
NYXL is a good player. NYXL is technically there. XC's there. XC wants to play on a Korean team. This is all available. Shockwave available. I guess there's still like a reasonable amount. You still have Master Crimzo. No, yeah, Master Crimzo. I guess your Crimzo hasn't been signed. So Master Crimzo, Gangnam Jin, Astro, Iris. I guess you're not screwed.
Yeah,
You're
no.
not out of options,
Yeah.
but it does feel like the doors are starting, the walls are starting to close in at least slightly.
Yeah, sure.
And then in the end, you just resign EQO. The old Philly Fusion spiel.
That's not to EQO's, lack of skill by any means, but yeah, I'd like to see a Philly revamp.
What if Sato goes back to Philly?
Could do.
Back to Philly he
Not
goes.
terrible.
Muse is on the market.
Muse. Yeah, Muse, definitely.
Gargoyles out there floating around.
Yeah. Yeah, Kellen.
Yeah.
I think some teams still like Django. Like,
yeah,
especially
Yeah,
like
I
in
don't
the
mind it.
fragging type of position and high mechanical requirements. I think Django, as a former DPS player and generally high mechanics, is probably also something that Overwatch League teams would probably want to look at for this new tank meta. Just like makes sense to me.
Yeah.
What about Striker? Does anyone like Striker?
Yeah.
Talk about me needing a tracer player.
Yeah.
Got the best, or one of the best.
Bit of hesitation. Yeah, I mean he's available. He's Korean. If he wants to play in a Korean team.
Yeah.
So I guess NYXL and Fusion still definitely have a lot of options. Maybe they're just biding their time. But
I think you're right.
I don't know if you'd argue that they missed the first wave of options. Like they all missed a proper train, but there's only going to be one proper. Everyone was going to miss out except for one team. So that's maybe not a fair, reasonable thing to say. Like, oh, you didn't get proper GGs then.
Yeah.
But to me, Twilight. I thought Twilight could have gone to one of these teams.
Yeah, that's.
I think Yaki has to go to one of these teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
If Fusion or NYXL don't get Yaki, I think that's a bit of a throw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's on Toronto. He's just like it's Yaki, Twilight, Hisu. That's what we're looking at.
Keep in
Toronto's
mind,
just like arguing that.
like Fusion is likely to stay in Korea, given the move that they are seem to be moving to a fully Korean team and have the T1 offices. So they're probably one of the better ones adjusted to that. Probably better than NYXL. So, like, I think it's just like attractive then for Korean players to want to play for that team. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Yaki is a pretty high probability, just like in the entire package. If you look at it, like, probably not cheap, pretty hard carry player, one of the best free agents on the market. Fusion still haven't gotten a trophy. They want one. Probably someone that's going to transition well into Overwatch 2 just because by the flexibility of the player.
I forgot Carpe's there, by the way. I just remembered Carpe's on there.
I mean, yeah, but like you need also like, okay, Yaki is a better player in 2021 than Carpe.
Oh, I'm not saying Yaki can't go there because Carpe's on. I just remembered that Carpe is there, so you're playing alongside.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Yeah. Not that Carpe is washed or anything, but it's like he also showed some that he still got it in the playoff performances where he was probably their best player. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's a lot of it is like how we think about it is a little bit of narrative, and in the end, then we find out like I don't know, like who thought Lip was an inspired pickup when it happened, right?
Sure.
Who thought? Who else did pop off this season that would Skewed was an inspired one, right?
Is the most like under the radar player I think to have ever existed.
Yeah, very possible.
Because Arns didn't even come from a team that went 0-12 in maps and 0-4 in matches won in contenders.
Yeah,
like literally the worst possible performance you could have in Contenders career, and then went on to the Overwatch League, and then went on to become one of the best players in his role. So unbelievable in that case. That sounds like it shouldn't even happen. So Skewed is like the king of flying under the radar.
And now that I think about it, like there weren't too many players that were like this last season, right? Like I'm going through the top 5 teams. Like Dallas didn't have a guy like this. Shanghai didn't have a guy like this since Lip.
Just Arns? Does that count? Does Arns count?
Yeah. When he came, but like there's few and far in between, to be fair. But yeah, like every season we miss some, right?
But even Arns, people knew. Oh, this is some like ranked sniper god. You know, if even people knew mechanically Arns was powerful, right? Even if his like team resume didn't look great, everyone knew that individually mechanically he was like quite godly.
Yeah.
So that wasn't like super surprising.
Yeah.
Skewed was like unheard of, and people were like, "Who the fuck is Skewed?" You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
they gotta start moving soon, though.
cool. And by the way, you know, there's definitely other teams, and we haven't talked about some other teams as well in terms of like talking about like leftovers here. The reason why I haven't specifically brought up like a Charge or a Spark is because they actually already have like a solid core.
Yeah.
You know, they only need a couple more players. Whether you believe that's a good or bad thing, debatable. Chung do have 9 players. I mean, we've talked about that before. Boston is maybe the only piece that hasn't really made moves. Even Paris has a core going on. Has London done much? They've just got Christopher on, and they'll be maybe working through. They got what Sparker and
Sparker Shax, I believe.
Sparker Shax is okay, cool.
It's not bad. Good start.
You have, by the way, Funny Asher rumored for Glads. That's a rumor. So Moth is free agent. Funny Asher rumored for Glads, which means Christopher's not going to get his UK team dream team. I mean, Kai is on Atlanta anyway, so you'd have to get both Kai and Funny Asher to get that dream team going. So really, we're talking outside of teams like Valiant Vancouver, who we're not expecting anything from, and teams that have a core like Charge, Spark, and Hunters, and Fuel, and Eternal. It's just Uprising and Spitfire left for me that haven't really made a lot of moves. Do you count Gladiators? Who do they have again? They have.
I mean, they've re-signed or they've upped Kevcher's contract.
Yeah,
they've got.
That's a big win, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. It's great for them. Not a ton of moves, but
let go of Muse.
Yeah, obviously burning your tires.
They have kept the skewed shoot with Funny Asher Rumen.
Yeah.
So that's your 3 supports, 2 flex. For everyone that thinks skewed is a main support, by the way, he's actually a flex support who plays Brig. So 2 flex supports, 1 main. You got 1 flex DPS. You're missing a tank who is, I assume they'll get Space back if Space chooses to come back, which is a high likelihood. They just need 1 to 2 more DPS. And maybe 1 tank, but definitely 2 more DPS is what Glads need. They got a call. Like, I'm not even upset with their call. I think they, you know, if they do get Funny Asher, that's 4 players. They've made moves. Like that's a decent call to build around. They just need a couple more.
Yeah. No, for sure. I still wonder, like, you know how in that Platchet episode, did you see the end with Space and Super? And they were saying like stuff was going to be interesting. I still wonder if there was ever like a chance for Super and Space to team up on Glads. And if that was ever in the room or whatever, like was a possibility.
Or Space going to Shock with Super.
Or that, Because to be fair, like if I'm a streamer for Overwatch 2, I would rather be in NRG than in the Crunky, a KC position, just because like NRG is more esports and streaming endemically entwined, right? Like more so than KC is probably. But I wonder if there was something.
Glads fans will dislike this, but there's still a non-zero chance Space could go to Shock with Super. That is still open on the table. So you better hope that DPay is put out a good offer for Space if you want to retain him. But I'm not worried about Glads. I'm actually not worried about them at all.
No.
I think they've got good pieces and they'll be solid. I start looking at. Did we talk about Gable She last week? GBS? Because he got announced as leaving the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we thought that Punk and GBS were going to maybe be the two tanks of this team, but no, he's gone.
Yep.
It's just Valentine, Punk, and Faith.
Yeah.
And yeah, they got 3 out of 5. Yeah,
way more.
They got 1 in each, but I think this team needs a bunch more options. And we've talked about Boston liking Faith. Roy likes Faith. We get it. But a lot of teams are moving on double flex supports. Just saying.
Yeah.
And they got rid of Myungbong. Just saying. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And also in the Western flex market, it's not like there's a lot. Are you going to get Crimzo or something? I don't know. Like if you can do that, I would think
also,
like
also don't have the greatest reputation or ability to pay.
Yeah, I would think like Atlanta or something would be way more attractive to someone like Crimzo.
Of course.
Atlanta, maybe even Mayhem before I go to Boston. So I think reasonable. Not sure.
Boston's willing to take Korean players, and I actually have a theory that they may promote, because they've done this so many times in the past, that they will promote from Uprising Academy. If you look at the Uprising Academy roster right now, I heavily believe a number of them will come to Boston to the main team. I don't know how many, but a number of them could. And Uprising Academy actually did well in NA contenders.
Yeah.
So
you know who's been fucking big juiced up?
Stella?
Simple. I mean, Stellar definitely is up there, but I've heard some big things about Simple. Just from like
he's the greatest Counter-Strike player in the world. I mean, of course.
Hey.
There you go. La la.
So yeah, I think that could definitely be. I like where that's headed. I like where your head's at, and I don't hate that team. Even if they take some of the pieces and move them up, that's competitive. I don't know if you win, but it's competitive at the very least.
I haven't watched Boston Uprising Academy this season. I remember Simple from last season on Runaway. He was reasonable. I don't think he was a superstar, but he was reasonable. So I mean, if you're telling me he's really stepped up, I could see them making space on their team, like saying, "Well, gave Myungbong a couple of chances. It's a good play, but Simple kind of pounding. We're gonna get Simple."
Yeah,
that might be the guy. I think there's a real world where, I don't know, maybe they do a Simple Stella. I think Simple Stella would be locked in.
Yeah,
if you're gonna get 2 guys from Uprising Academy, you look at Simple Stella, surely.
I like that start. That's a great addition. That's 5 players then.
Yeah, they would still need, if they want to be safe, 1 more DPS, potentially 1 more tank.
Yeah.
If they want to be safe. And actually, 1 more flex support. So if you want to be safe, you need 8 players. But at least 7.
Credits where credits due. They've got some options in-house, and there's still people on the market that
or
you could pick from.
Oh, this is the ultimate Huckster move. I figured it. I've peered into his brain. I know what he's doing. They get their 5, they reach the January whatever deadline, and then they just they slowly grind that shit out and wait as long as possible, see who's got an Overwatch 2, and then they complete their roster after that. That's the strat. You lock Simple Stella because you know they're good. You have your 5, and then you just slowly wait it out. That's the Huck strat.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely also like a reason why this entire Boston Uprising Academy team is fully Korean, right? Like, that's probably something that came at the request of coaching. You feed it. By the way, like, it is always weird to say QOQ in these, right? No? Like, I felt like during the time, for instance, when QOQ was still like with T1, and like everyone was like, oh yeah, this guy is actually going to be like an A+ player going into the Overwatch League. And then he just like, was he on the Spark, or where was he?
I believe where he serves, something like that.
Like it shouldn't be the case that we can't remember this. But yeah, Spark. Okay.
What are we trying to remember?
Like where QOQ played. But he didn't.
I don't think he played all that much, did he? No?
Yeah. Who was he with during that time?
He got replaced by Sashin, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, that guy just also was one of those that never, like, made good on his potential, it felt like.
I think he,
Unfortunately.
as I'm fucking melting on screen, I remember that he, on Runaway during the Hisuyaki Runaway era. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be real. He was probably out of the six the weakest player. No, mind you, they had fucking Lee Drake on this roster too.
Yeah.
He had some heavy hitters on this team, so
Yeah.
maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to be the worst player on on a heavy hitting team. But yeah, if you were gonna rank them, you'd probably put QOQ as number 6 out of 6 players on that Runaway roster.
Fair.
That's
Yeah.
not to say he's bad. Like, oh, you're the last place on one of the best teams. You're still a good player, but I always felt like QOQ was not like the heavy hitter on that team that everyone else was.
Fair.
And when everyone else from I remember Runaway being super hyped up, everyone went in to find big success. QOQ kind of did not. If I'm gonna be real, I wasn't super surprised that he didn't.
Yeah.
Just didn't really stand out to me.
Yep.
Agreed, yeah.
Maybe he's gonna. I have not seen Boston Uprising Academy recently. Maybe he's good. Maybe Uprising Academy is turned him into an incredible player. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll
Very
see.
possible.
See.
Cool. Is that all the teams? Did we miss out anybody? Did we miss out any news? Does anyone have on their mind a piece of news that we did not hit?
The thing, like, one thing I guess that we should talk about is, like, especially the Choyobin retirement.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's, like, a very accomplished player. Would you guys say Choyobin is the best off-tank in Overwatch League history?
I'm very biased in this, so I will wash my hands.
I mean, he has some competition, dude. Not gonna lie.
Void?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You can say Hanbin, but Hanbin only came in recently.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fury?
Yeah, but then Fury shot the bid this year. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, shitting the bad and, like, not participating is sort of like the same, because Choi came in later as well, right? Even though not that late. I always think it's super late into season 1. It wasn't that late.
It's either Void or Choi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Gotta be.
Agreed.
Two-time champion.
I don't know.
Overwatch League Finals MVP. Gone, dude. Like, that was once again one of those things that didn't make me a happy camper this week. Like, great career to look back to. Like, I think it's about as well as you could have hoped for if you're Choyobin. Yeah. Legend of the game.
He would have been signed again. I think he would have been signed again
for
if
sure.
he stayed.
Oh,
for sure.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
100%.
No. Great player. Great career. Unfortunate that by his character, he isn't going to be, like, very sticky in people's minds, as sticky as he should be, and neither is Void, unfortunately. But man, like, through several metas, always solid on pretty much every hero he had to play. Clutch, like, during GOATs, like, the way, like, I always felt like he was so smart in his ability to play. Like, I would say his ability to consistently outperform Janu was one of the bigger reasons why they eventually, like, had Titan's number. I don't know, dude. Like, legend of the game, first ballot Hall of Fame for sure, skis. And yeah, it's unfortunate that a guy like that goes. But at the same time, if any of the theories developing into Overwatch 2 are true about, like, you know, oftentimes maybe not transitioning, this is the way to go out. Like, you tried the 3-peat, you should have been there. Because, like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, when you're 60 and sitting there and going, like, my friends were in the 3-peat, I quit out after the second one. That feels bad. You shot your shot. You still had a great third season, comparatively speaking. You won 2 Overwatch League finals. I don't know, dude. Like, this is the perfect career conception that you would have if you could choose as a player.
Agreed. Also,
Farewell. last couple of things that are brought up here for activities is Feather also retired. Very short Overwatch League career. Played well in the contenders, and unfortunate that he ended up going. I guess just another collateral damage piece of some of the NYXL. But I mean, dude, losing Ivy this year was a bit rough.
Yeah.
Why not? Apparently, is out of NYXL. Kuki's still a free agent. Could be going somewhere like NYXL. I mean, that would be cool. Unknown is coming back to NYXL. Has come back to NYXL as a manager. Dongman is out of Atlanta as their manager / translator. Obviously, they're going full Western, so don't need a Korean English translator anymore. But that is kind of all the rest of activity cleared up for this week. We'll be back with more news coming up soon. And then put in the comments, by the way, what would you like to see for the very special episode 200, which comes up in 3 episodes time? Do you have any ideas? If you do, let us know. Hit us up. Tell us what's good. Go to the Discord. I don't know. Drop a line. All right. This has been me, AVRL, Volamel Yiska, 197. Peace out. See you next week.